Lin Hu Du Jue stands on the edge of the roof with a sword in his hands. He clutches the sword to him and closes his eyes. People are looking at him from below. On the same roof where Lin Hu Du Jue is standing, there is a man with a sword who tells him that someone offered 7,000 liang for his head, and today he's here to kill him. People from below, hearing this, begin to discuss that a man who is not afraid of death has appeared again, and also decided to fight Lin Hu Du Jue alone. This is the same sword master who killed the right guardian of the demon cult 2 years ago. The other man answers the speaker exactly. He had heard that Lin Hu Du Jue had won a duel with a blade master from Japan, forcing his opponent to commit harakiri. Once he entered the village of bandits Black Whirlwind, and when he came out, all 300 bandits were killed. Lin Hu Du Jue is number 1 on the Tiangang list, and he is known as the number 1 master in the Middle Kingdom. A man with a sword in his hands approaches Lin Hu Du Jue on the roof. He stands with his eyes closed. People from the crowd are watching them, and someone from the crowd is wondering why they haven't done anything yet. The man replies to him that he thinks that Lin Hu Du Jue is evaluating and waiting for an opportunity. As soon as his opponent makes his move, he will kill him with a cruel death. Then his enemy points at him with a sword and calls Lin Hu Du Jue. He asks the one why he doesn't say anything and doesn't start acting. Without waiting for an answer, the man shouts to Lin Hu Du Jue that he will take his life today, and he looks at him from above without saying a word. Lin Hu Du Jue is still silent. A man seeing such a reaction wonders what Lin Hu Du Jue is waiting for. Here Lin Hu Du Jue exhales. He turns to the man and says that he is only one and wants to take his life. Lin Hu Du Jue adds, saying it's just ridiculous. He raises his hand, and magic begins to sparkle around him. The magical wind tearing the covering off the roof rushes towards the man. He tightly grasps the sword, trying to stay in place. He looks angrily at his enemy. Lin Hu Du Jue, looking at him in response, asks the man if he is ready to be killed. To himself, the man thinks about what a powerful inner strength Lin Hu Du Jue has. In the whole world, it is rare to meet a person who is able to release his true Kai from the body. The man understands that Lin Hu Du Jue deserves his fame. This is the first time a man meets a man who can release his true Kai in the form of air gusts that can form a cyclone around the body. The man understands that Lin Hu Du Jue is a master and it will be difficult to cope with him. But the man thinks that, however, standing in the face of such a powerful opponent, is he capable of retreating without a fight? The man is preparing to strike, and thinks to himself that he is the only descendant of the Asura blade that has shed sweat and blood for 20 years. If he escapes today, will he be able to face the master in the afterlife? The man takes off and rushes into battle, thinking that he should fight with him. At least you need to make a couple of movements. Lin Hu Du Jue stands motionless on the roof with his eyes closed. Then he opens his eyes and takes out his sword. The Kai around him gathers into a powerful vortex. The man realizes that Lin Hu Du Jue is going to make his move. But then something happens. The man wonders what happened. Why did the surrounding air suddenly become so cold? The man wonders that the center of gravity of Lin Hu Du Jue leans slightly forward. Is it really, being 10 steps away from him? He is going to teleport close to him and put the blade to his throat. The man understands that he will die from such an attack before he has time to beg for mercy. The man understands that this is impossible. It just can't be. The man understands that Lin Hu Du Jue can really do it. Lin Hu Du Jue takes out a sword from its scabbard, which begins to glow with a bright light. The man at this time drops his sword and falls face down in front of Lin Hu Du Jue, shouting that he is giving up. The man trembling says that he should not go to the battle to the death. He knows that Lin Hu Du Jue's strength is much higher than his. He is from the city of Lofen. He has a daughter-in-law who is waiting for him to return home. His daughter-in-law is 7 months pregnant and he has already come up with a name for the baby. He can't die. He doesn't want to die. The man asks Lin Hu Du Jue to spare his life. He will never take a blade in his hands again in his life. Lin Hu Du Jue sheaths his weapon, thinking that he does not want the man's wife and child to lose their support. And today he will save the man's life. Lin Hu Du Jue turns her back on the man, telling him to leave before he changes his mind. The man escapes, thanks to Lin Hu Du Jue. The people below, seeing this, cheerfully shout that Lin Hu Du Jue has won again. Here he is a real master. His duel hadn't even started yet, and his opponent had already cowardly escaped. Someone in the crowd says that it's a pity. This time everything ended without seeing the movement of the hero Lin Hu. Lin Hu Du Jue is breathing heavily. He is shocked to think that he was scared to death. A little more and he would have been exposed. This is Hu Ju. He is a man who got into the world of martial arts. All over the world, he is called Lin Hu Du Jue and is considered the #1 master. They say he killed the right guardian of the demon cult, a blade master from Japan, and 300 bandits. But all this is a lie. In fact, he just happened to pass by their bodies. As for why Hu Ju can create a cyclone of wind around his body, make the air cool, and stand on the very top of the roof, this is due to his practice of the technique called 100 Concepts of the Heavenly Host. In the past, he had searched the body of the right guardian of the demon cult and found 100 concepts of the heavenly host in him. After practice, he mastered such skills as creating a cyclone, cooling the air, maintaining stability, and so on. Although it's all useless to use, it has a deterrent effect. It has been half a year since he was considered the #1 master in the whole world, and over the past half a year dozens of masters have come and challenged him. With the power of his ostentatious techniques combined with the 100 concepts of the heavenly host, it caused them all to flee in fear. Hu Ju wonders when this life full of fear will end. Then someone turns to Hu Ju, asking if he is the same Ling Hu hero. This scares Hu Ju. He turns around and sees two girls. One of them with blonde hair tells Hu Ju that they finally managed to find him. They are the elder and younger sisters, descendants of the Su clan, which was destroyed by the demon cult. Hu Ju doesn't know what to say to that. Here the girls fall on their knees in front of him and say in one voice that they want Hu Ju to become their mentor. Hu Ju asks Chi in shock. Sumo is from the Su family in Jiangnan. He was originally known as the Seven Swords and ranked 14th among the masters in the Tiangang list. Sumo was a friendly person by nature and liked to do good deeds. However, while fighting evil, he often went on punitive expeditions against the cult of demons. And a month ago, the left guardian of the demon cult, the black pupil of the Dark Raven, led the cult to destroy the Su family. To cover the retreat of the family members, Sumo faced the demon cult alone. As a result, Sumo was killed by the Dark Crow Blade, and the Su family manor was burned to the ground. The girl with red hair introduces herself, saying that her name is Su Wan Qiu. She is the eldest daughter of the Seven Swords of the Su family. She continues by saying that the clan was destroyed and therefore she is now a runaway sword master. She wants to learn the art of the sword from Hu Ju in order to take revenge. The girl with blonde hair introduces herself as Su Cao Chun. She is the youngest daughter of Sumo. Now she has no one to lean on and she wants to learn how to be strong in order to be able to protect herself, hoping for a mentor's shelter. Hu Ju looks at them and thinks that these two sisters look cute, and their life is full of sorrows. He would love to take them as students, but he is a fake first in the Middle Kingdom and he will not be able to teach any skills, will not waste their time. He tells the girls, asking for forgiveness, that he has to refuse them. Hu Ju continues by saying that he has never accepted disciples and has always wandered around the world alone. They had better find someone else. Su Wan Qiu shouts to him that their enemy is the left guardian of the demon cult. He has not lost in martial arts for decades. Only Hu Ju, the one who killed the right guardian of the demon cult, can compete with him. Su Cao Chun says that the mentor is the greatest hero in the whole world. How can he abandon weak girls despite all this? She shouts that as soon as she becomes a mentor's student, she will be able to wash, cook, massage her back, rub her shoulders. She is ready to work hard. They may have fled, but they still have some money left. Hotel, restaurant, dumplings, they can pay for it all. Hu Ju is shocked to think that the girls are so prepared. Hu Ju asks the girls how they know he likes dumplings. Su Wan Qiu says that they sincerely honor him as a teacher. Naturally, they have done some research. Hu Ju thinks about the fact that lately he has been running out of money, and it's hard to find a place to sleep. Being a great hero, he can't hang around and beg. It's better to let these two sisters help him cope with the hardships of life for a while. Although he can't teach them, he can find a suitable master for them thanks to his reputation. In the end, Hu Ju tells the girls okay. He will allow them to accompany him on his journey for a while. He does not pass on his techniques to outsiders, but he can find them someone else who will be ready to become his mentor. Su Cao Chun says great, thank you, their mentor is the best. Su Wan Qiu says that she bows to the mentor. Hu Ju, hearing their words, thinks that they still call him mentor. At least they understood what he said. The girls and Hu Ju come to the hotel. Su Wan Qiu says that they want to rent 2 rooms. He and his sister will live in the same room, and their mentor in the next one. Su Zayachun says that in addition, they would also like to order dumplings. They need to be delivered later to the mentor's room. Despite all kinds of temptations, he decided to accompany the Su sisters for a while. They would rest at the inn first, and the next day he would take them to the bodyguard bureau to find a more suitable mentor for them. Su Cao Chun tells the mentor that they are going to rest for a while. He should also. Hu Ju answers well. A little later, Hu Ju is sitting and eating dumplings. He talks like this complexity. He decides that as soon as he eats the dumplings, he will need to practice properly. Later, Hu Ju sits and meditates. His cultivation method is called the 100 Concepts of the Heavenly Host. He found it on the body of the right guardian of the demon cult that went to the world of the dead. There are 9 styles of the deception method. The first 4 are weak stuff, the next 4 are more impressive, and the latter is the legendary first class method. The first style, this is the art of the deity of the winds. It sounds very cool, but in fact it just creates a harmless cyclone around the human body, which releases its true kai. The second style is the art of the whirling flower. It sounds like the name of a great wine, but in fact its only function is to stand straight regardless of the type of surface. This style is the art of the frozen soul. It sounds damn cold, but in fact it can only reduce the ambient temperature by a few degrees. The fourth style is the art of splitting sound. It sounds very cheeky, but in fact it just makes the voice more expressive and spreads it with an echo. The fifth style is the instruction of the diamond. After use, you can make the body invulnerable for a while, but an hour after use, the spine will seriously hurt. The sixth style is the art of hidden clouds. After use, you can completely hide your breathing and making sounds, because it is difficult to detect a person as if he does not exist. An hour after use, a condition of lower back pain occurs. The seventh way is the art of stopping the heart. After use, a person can make the opponent's heart stop for a few seconds by looking into his eyes. You can use this method to interrupt the opponent's use of his technique. An hour after use, a state of myopia occurs. The eighth style is the art of ghostly crying. After use, he can make the sounds of ghosts crying when he swings a sword. This unusual thing can often scare the enemy. An hour after use, a state of deafness occurs. Hu Ju has been practicing for 2 years and now he has mastered only the first 4 styles. If he wants to survive in this dangerous world, he must master the last 4 as soon as possible. Of course, the last style of the 100 Concepts of the Heavenly Host is the strongest, but also the most difficult to understand. And this style is called the Art of the Godslayer. In the book, only 1 page is devoted to this technique except for the name of the skill, there is nothing else. Hu Ju is thinking about how he can cope with this style. Later, Hu Ju lies on the bed, thinking that he is not up to it now. Tomorrow, he needs to take the Su sisters to the bodyguard bureau and find a mentor for them. The day is coming. A busy city street. Hu Ju is walking, followed by Su Wan Qiu and Su Cao Chun. People notice this and are delighted to recognize Hu Ju. Someone says they heard yesterday that he killed Asura Blade Qin Wu with a single sword strike. Here someone says that he heard that Hu Ju just scared off his opponent. He is told that Hu Ju definitely killed the Asura Blade Qin W. Hu Ju's sword leaves no witnesses. Su Wan Qiu tells her sister that on the way they are constantly discussing the mentor. Su Cao Chun replies to his sister that this is natural, because Mentor Ling Hu is the #1 master in the whole Celestial Empire. Hu Ju is shocked to think that the girls are still calling him mentor. Then Hu Ju looks up and says come. They came to Lin Hai's bodyguard bureau. Su Wan Qiu admires, saying that this is a bodyguard bureau and it's his first time in such a place. What kind of people will be there? Hu Ju tells them that there are masters of various martial arts in the bodyguard bureau, but since the most ordinary people live in Lin Hai City, there are usually no criminals in it. Hu Ju walks in and sees a lot of dubious individuals looking like criminals inside. He is shocked to think that the people in front of him look like thugs. Here a man turns to Hu Ju asking Hu Ju, addressing him as a schoolboy, and asking about why the fuck he dragged these 2 virgins here. The man leans over to Hu Ju and asks him what's the matter, is he looking down on the profession of bodyguards? This is not a place where they can take a tour. Hu Ju is shocked to think that this person really with a shitty attitude is even frightening. However, Hu Ju understands that he will lose as soon as he shows fear on his face. He must stand his ground to the end. Therefore, outwardly Hu Ju remains absolutely calm. The man seeing this asks Hu Ju about the fact that he looks down on him. Su Cao Chun asks the big guy if he could be more polite. She screams that with his strength, he won't even be able to defeat her. And he also dares to show disrespect to Mentor Ling Hu. The man in response asks her that he will not be able to defeat a girl like her. He rushes to attack her, shouting that it's okay, let her try. But Su Cao Chun blocks his attack. The man tells her that it was a good reception. He attacks her, shouting at her about how she likes such a trick. She dodges his attack time after time, and then forcefully hits the man with a knee in the eye. The one from her blow flies into the wall. He wipes his bruised nose, and then he tells Su Cao Chun that it was cool. He obeys, and the man asks them who the hell they are. Su Wan Qiu says that their mentor is the world-famous Lin Hu Du Jue. and they are two of his new students. Everyone immediately shouts to Lin Hu Du Jue. All the people around immediately begin to discuss that Hu Jue is dressed in white, has a sword on his belt, walks smoothly like a celestial. This person is indeed Lin Hu Jue. Lin Hu Du Jue is a legendary swordmaster who was able to single-handedly kill the first guardian of the demon cult 2 years ago, and they met him here now. He came a couple of days ago, but rumor has it that yesterday, before drawing his sword, he made Asura Kin Wu's blade beg for mercy. The man immediately bows his head in front of Hu Jue and says that he has eyes and did not see the Taishan Mountains, and she turned out to be the hero Ling Hu. He asks him not to be offended. Hu Jue replies that there is no problem. He has no intention of provoking a fight today and he can forgive the man for his ignorance. Hu Jue turns and points at the girls with his hand, saying that they are the daughters of the 7 swords of sumo, and they are ready to bow to a noble man with a sword as a teacher. Within a radius of 100 miles, the Linhai Bodyguard Bureau is a gathering place for various martial artists. He himself cannot accept them as disciples, so he came to find out if there is a worthy mentor here who will accept them as disciples. Then someone sitting in the hall laughs. A man sitting on a chair says that the hero of Ling Hu, now the Bodyguard Bureau, has received a task, because there are not enough worthy masters left. Everyone here is not as strong as these 2 girls, and therefore how can they be their mentors? The man continues, saying that, however, he knows one place where he could find a suitable mentor for them. Hu Jue is interested in such a place. The man gets up from his chair and says, "Let me introduce myself." He's the manager of the Linhai Bodyguard Bureau. His name is Pan Yuan. He says that he knows one place where a lot of high-level masters have gathered and they can go there. Hu Jue tells the man to tell, he listens. Pan Yuan says there are too many extra eyes and ears here, it will be inconvenient to have a conversation. The Ling Hu hero can follow him upstairs and talk in private. Later, Hu Jue and Pan Yuan are sitting at a table. Pan Yuan says that the town of Guangping is located 120 miles from the city of Linhai. The Pringnan of the city there recently published a task. A letter came to the royal residence from the young master of the Split Shadow. Hu Jue asks about the young master of the Split Shadow. Pan Yuan replies that the name of this young master of the Split Shadow is Shangyuan Liang. He is an incomparable master, ranked 7th on the Tiangang list. Shangyuan Liang is the successor of the noble Shadow Robber. He has no equal in the world in the technique of King Gong and is also good at acupuncture. The weapon he often uses is the Iron Wind. Although the warrior is a man, he perfectly disguises himself as a girl and can also speak in a female voice. He is elusive and incredibly cunning. 7 days ago, the young master of the Split Shadow sent a letter to the royal residence of Nan. The letter says that he will steal the family treasure of the royal residence on the 30th of this month. After King Zheng Nan found out this news, he attached great importance to it. He informed the bodyguard bureau of the 4 cities around Guangping City, sending the strongest masters to guard the royal residence. A net is spread around the royal residence, from which it is impossible to get out and which will surely catch Shangyuan Liang. Pan Yuan continues by saying that there is currently a royal residence gathered within 300 miles of this area. If Hu Jue wants to find a master who would like to train the Su sisters, then the royal residence is the perfect place. Hu Jue, smiling, says that Pan Yuan just wants Hu Jue to go there in order to catch Shangyuan Liang. Pan Yuan laughs, saying that the hero Ling Hu is really smart. He doesn't need many words to understand his true intentions. Yes, on behalf of the prince, he would like to invite him, number 1 on the Tiangang list, to guard the treasure of the royal residence. Pan Yuan continues, saying that with Hu Jue's help, they will have absolute confidence in the safety of the protected prince, and he will even be able to capture Shangyuan Liang. Hu Jue takes a sip of tea and thinks about the proposal to guard the treasures of the royal residence. It seems that this mission is not to fight the enemy head-on. It is even suitable for him. King Zhengnan has already summoned the masters from the 4 surrounding cities, so there will be plenty of people there. He can just pretend to be guarding until the mission is successfully completed. Pan Yuan sees Hu Jue's confusion and says that the Ling Hu hero seems to have doubts. Perhaps he was clumsy and forgot to mention the reward. Pan Yuan shows 3 fingers with his hand and says that if the hero Ling Hu agrees to go, this number will be the reward. Hu Jue thinks that he will get 3 liang in silver for this. It's not enough, and this is the money of the royal residence. They should have more than 30 liang in silver. With this money, he could eat dumplings for 3 months. Nevertheless, since the masters are usually not particularly restrained, this is definitely not enough. Pan Yuan says the reward is 3,000 liang in silver. Hu Jue is shocked by this amount. He says with a smile that he is in business. After a while, Hu Ju, Su Cao Chun and Su Wan Qiu get out of the carriage and find themselves at the palace gate. Su Wan Qiu raises her hands, thinking that they have been sitting in a carriage for 2 days. They have finally reached the royal residence. Su Cao Chun asks Hu Ju that the mentor is going to find them a new teacher here. Hu Ju replies that he took the assignment at this place. Tomorrow a thief will come to the royal residence to steal the treasure. They needed his help in guarding. There are also many high-level masters gathered here. He can find a suitable teacher for himself here. Hu Ju, Su Cao Chun and Su Wan Qiu follow the servant through the residence. They find themselves in the courtyard. Hu Ju looks at the people in front of him and thinks that they are now in front of the main hall of the royal residence. He notices 2 bodyguards whose strength looks unusual. Hu Ju also notices Sage Zhu Qian from Tiangshuan Palace and young Master Kang Yun from the Towering Dragon Temple. Hu Ju is surprised that they were also invited. Hu Ju understands that it looks like the prince really called a lot of masters here. Then a girl walks behind him with a tray in her hands. The girl stumbles and drops the tray. The girl falls right next to Hu Ju. She says with tears in her eyes that she is in pain. She also spilled all the tea for the guests on the ground. The mistress will scold her again. Hu Ju holds out his hand to her, asking if she is okay. She takes his hand and says she's fine. She tells Hu Ju that his face is not familiar to her, they have only recently arrived. Su Cao Chun replies that yes, they and the mentor have just arrived. The girl asks about where their master is. She goes to get a new tea, and will also inform the mistress about it. Hu Ju introduces himself, saying that he is Lin Hu Du Jue. This immediately attracts everyone's attention. Everyone shouts his name in shock. Hu Ju is standing with his eyes closed, and people are standing behind him and talking among themselves. One of the men says that Lin Hu Du Jue is a master who occupies the first place in the Tiangang list. Although it is rumored that Shangyuan Ling is going to steal the treasure, but invite Ling Hu himself. This is just some kind of nonsense. Then a girl comes out to them with a cup of tea in her hands. She tells the masters that she thanks them for having gathered at the royal residence. She introduces herself as Shu Yuan, the eldest daughter of King Zhen Nan. She sits down on a chair and says that currently the royal residence has set up its nets, created with the support of masters, so they must definitely capture this thief. Hu Ju reflects on the fact that this miss is beautiful and has good manners, as one would expect from a king's daughter. Shu Yuan says that tomorrow is the 30th, so she hopes that they will all work together and naturally they will not offend with a reward. And now she would like them to get acquainted with the plan of the royal residence. It marks the positions that they need to protect. She asks everyone present to arrive at the specified positions tomorrow. According to the arrangement of the royal residence, they are responsible for protecting the garden and the backyard on the north side. Su Cao Chun says that they will be the only guards here, the rest are located in other positions. Su Wan Qiu tells Hu Ju that it looks like the royal residence trusts them very much. The same one sits and worries very much. He thinks that he and these 2 girls are the only ones who will guard the backyard garden on the north side, although the eldest looks strong, but she is clearly not a rival to Shangyuan Ling. He ruefully thinks that he just wanted to cool off. Why the hell was he sent to guard the whole way? Then Shu Yuan comes up to them and says that despite the fact that she expected it, her father really gathered the strongest masters, but she did not expect that one of them would be the hero Ling Hu. Hu Ju turns his imperturbable head towards her. Shu Yuan bows his head, saying that they just met in the reception area with the staff hard and it was inconvenient to talk to them alone. She is once again introduced as Shu Yuan, the eldest daughter of King Zhen Nan. Hu Ju punches his fist into the palm of his hand and answers her greetings to Miss Shu Yuan. He smiles at her, which displeases Su Cao Chun. Shu Yuan covers his mouth in a smile. She says that Mr. Ling Hu's name is on everyone's ears right now. Although she is among the ladies, she has heard enough about him to meet them in person, and he really is not an ordinary man and is completely different from what she imagined. Hu Ju asks her like this. Shu Yuan approaches him saying that she thought he was a 60-year-old man obsessed with martial arts, but she didn't expect that being so young and handsome, he was able to possess such incredible fighting skills. She wonders if the hero Ling Hu will be able to train her after completing the task. Here Su Cao Chun stands between them, spreading his arms to the sides, shouting no. She tells Shu Yuan that she begs her forgiveness, but he is already their mentor. Su Wan Qiu also stands next to her sister. Shu Yuan asks Hu Ju about the fact that these 2 are his students. He begins to say that in fact they are, but he is interrupted by Su Cao Chun, saying that yes, they are students of mentor Ling Hu. In addition to his apprenticeship, they also take care of his daily life, spend money on him, change his clothes, bathe him and even share a bed. Hu Ju is shocked to think about what Su Cao Chun is saying to Shu Yuan. Here Su Wan-kyu coughs into his fist and tells his sister not to spin nonsense. Hu Ju happily thinks that the older one seems to be more serious. But then Su Wan-kyu screams about changing clothes, washing together and even sharing the same bed. They only thought about it, but they haven't done it yet. Hu Ju is shocked to think that she is there too. Shu Yuan is embarrassed and says that she did not expect that the hero Ling Hu already has female students and a similar relationship with them. In that case, she really doesn't suit him, so she apologizes for bothering him. She continues by saying that after completing the task, she would still like to invite the hero Ling Hu to have a snack. Hu Ju tells her okay, they will meet after completing the task. However, there is one thing that needs to be said to Miss before tomorrow. Shu Yuan replies that he asks him to tell. Hu Ju replies that he does not think that the current measures to protect the royal residence are reasonable. There are many masters on guard of the royal residence and each of them protects his own special position. But there are also many people among them who can cope with Shangguan Lian. If Shangguan Lian gets information about the royal residence, he will launch an attack from the weakest position. Even if a master appears who decides to provide support, it will be too late. He suggests a plan in which he was not the only one protecting the back garden from the north side, so it's worth sending another master. He's fast enough to provide support anywhere. Shu Yuan tells him that as she expected from the hero Ling Hu, he has thought everything through enough. The matter is urgent. She will immediately send an additional master to the backside from the north side. On the night of the 30th, it was time for the promised theft of Shangguan Lian. An elderly master stands with Hu Ju. He looks at Hu Ju and thinks that it's great. He doesn't know why, but it's so great that the royal residence sent him to the same group with Lin Hu Du Jue. Despite the fact that he is ranked 31st on the Tiangang list, he is still not an opponent for Shangguan Lian. If he allowed him to break through from his position, he would simply lose his entire reputation. But as long as Hu Ju is around, he can simply do nothing. Hu Ju looks at the joyful master and thinks that this old man looks quite reliable. He sees that the old man has thought about it, for sure, comes up with a plan for how to fight back against the enemy. Hu Ju thinks with a smile that while the master is here, he can do nothing. Then a signal charge takes off into the sky. Hu Ju and the girls are looking at him. Su Cao Chun tells the mentor that this is a signal from the south side. Most likely, this means that Shangguan Lian is here. Hu Ju, Su Wan-kyu, Su Cao Chun and the master look at the signal fire in the sky. Hu Ju looks at the sky and thinks about the fact that yesterday after he gave advice to Shu Yuan, she immediately made changes to the plan of the royal residence. Each of the masters had to guard their place, but if Shangguan Lian appeared in a certain place, the person standing guard would have to set off fireworks. After the fireworks were launched, half of the people from other positions had to be sent to the person who was at the initial point, and the rest of the masters would stand in their places and wait for further orders. Hu Ju continues his reflections by saying that it looks like he just needs to wait until Shangguan Lian enters the battle with other masters. Just pretend that he managed to appear at the crucial moment. In any case, do not rush. If he comes too early, he may have to fight with Shangguan Lian. Here the master calls the hero Ling Hu, saying that Shangguan Lian must have decided to organize an attack from the south side. It looks like he will have to go to the south side and capture Shangguan Lian. Hu Ju says no with a smile, saying that he thinks that this person should be Sage Zhu Kaiyan. The one in shock, opening his mouth, asks what. Hu Ju raises his finger up, saying that he is guarding the north, but the fireworks appeared in the most remote place of the south side and it is very suspicious. Perhaps Shangguan Lian's plan is to lure the tiger out of the mountain. Hu Ju tells Zhu Kaiyan that he will be the first to go south and if he really sees Shangguan Lian there, then he will launch another firework for him and then he will immediately arrive. Zhu Kaiyan thinks admiringly that Hu Ju has thought everything through so carefully. As expected from the master, he is the number one in the Celestial Empire. Indeed, if Shangguan Lian had made an attack to the south and then decided to make a real attack in the north, then if he had remained to defend the position alone, he would definitely have lost, after which he would have been exposed to ridicule. He thinks that he should listen to the hero Ling Hu. Zhu Kaiyan tells the hero Ling Hu that he is absolutely right, in which case he will go to support the southern side. Hu Ju speaks well. Zhu Kaiyan leaves, shouting to Hu Ju to expect his fireworks. Su Cao Chun admiringly tells Hu Ju that he is so smart and has thought everything through so much. Su Cao Chun says like this mentor, she admires him. Then someone says, yes, as expected from Lin Hu Du Jue. Hu Ju's eyes widen in shock. Shangguan Lian is sitting on a tree branch, who says that he really intended to lure the tiger from the mountain by luring him with fireworks from the south side. He didn't think that Hu Ju would figure out his plan so quickly. Hu Ju calmly says the truth, you're Shangguan Lian. And to himself, Hu Ju is in shock thinking about what the hell Shangyuan Ling has appeared here. He jumps down from the tree, speaking correctly. Hu Ju thinks to himself, calm, calm, calm. The so-called strategy of luring the tiger from the mountain. He specially came up with it to be lazy. How could it be true? This is a coincidence, and it turns out that they are the only ones who will participate in the attack on Shangyuan Ling. Su Zhe-chun thinks that she did not expect Shangyuan Ling to be so handsome, but the mentor will definitely be more beautiful. Su Wan-Q tells the mentor that they should attack and capture this thief. Hu Ju thinks that nothing can be done. It remains to pretend through I don't want to. Shangyuan Ling says that he has heard about the deeds of the hero Ling Hu all over the world. It would be an honor for him to arrange a duel with him. However, he is sure that the masters from the south side will arrive here soon as they understand his strategy to distract the tiger from the mountain. He is in the minority, so he cannot stay here for long. Shangyuan Ling asks if the hero Ling Hu can make way for him to find the treasure. He will be very grateful. Hu Ju says that the others trusted him, which is why he is standing guard here. However, he has a suggestion. Hu Ju offers Shangyuan Ling to leave right now and he will spare his life. Shangyuan Ling rushes into battle, saying that he asks Hu Ju for forgiveness, but cannot accept his offer. Hu Ju prepares to unsheath his sword. Hu Ju thinks Shangyuan Ling still wants to fight, so much trouble. He uses 100 concepts of the heavenly host. The first style is the art of the deity of the winds. Shangyuan Ling opens her eyes in shock. He thinks that Hu Ju has not yet managed to pull out the sword, and the aura of the sword is already coming out of his body, as expected from Lin Hu Du Jue. Hu Ju tells Shangyuan Ling that he would not want to take his life, but once he takes out the sword, there will be no way back. His sword will needlessly deprive him of his soul. Hu Ju is going to kill Shangyuan Ling, and he is so sorry. Shangyuan Ling stands and listens to Hu Ju's words from time to time. He is shocked to think that there are very strong fluctuations of inner strength in Hu Ju's voice. He's done a lot of research on the voice, but even he can't do that. Shangyuan Ling says that as expected, Lin Hu Du Jue is not someone he can handle alone. We will have to implement the second plan. Shangyuan Ling says that although the duel never happened, he was convinced of brother Ling Hu's strength with his own eyes. Shangyuan Ling leaves, saying that they will meet again. Su Wan-Q says the thief is running away. She is about to rush after him, but then she is grabbed by the arm. This is Hu Ju, who stops her and tells her that she should not pursue an enemy who is in a desperate situation. Privately, Hu Ju thinks that he was so scared to death that he was lucky that he managed to scare him away. Shangyuan Ling is very strong, lucky he didn't have to fight him. Su Cao-chun tells the mentor that she has an opening. She asks if Hu Ju has noticed that Shangyuan Ling doesn't look like the man in the portrait. Su Cao-chun tells Hu Ju and Su Wan-Q that Shangyuan Ling is very similar to one person. The two of them ask yes. Su Wan-Q says that Shangyuan Ling is very similar to the princess of the royal residence of Shu Yuan. Hu Ju is in shock, thinking seriously. Su Cao-chun continues, saying that Shangyuan Ling can easily sneak into the royal residence, and is familiar with the position that they are guarding. This explains that Shangyuan Ling has long since infiltrated the royal residence. He is very good at disguise techniques, and it is quite possible that the real Miss was stunned a few days ago, and after Shangyuan Ling replaced Miss by taking her identity. Su Zhaochun continues by saying that the reason she is convinced of this is because Shangyuan Ling used a plan to distract the tiger from the mountain to steal the treasure. In general, if the position that the mentor guards is known, it is easier to avoid him. But for this he had to use a plan to distract the mentor, forcing him to leave. This proves that he not only knew which position the mentor would guard, but also knew that the mentor would be forced to go to the rescue after the fireworks were launched. Yesterday, the mentor told Miss Shu Yuan that they would provide support immediately after the fireworks were released. That is why Shangyuan Ling believed the words of the mentor and chose this position. Su Cao-chun continues by saying that Shangyuan Ling miscalculated. She approaches Hu Ju and says admiringly that after all, the mentor has long suspected Miss Shu Yuan and therefore did not act according to the original plan. She asks Hu Ju correctly, mentor, she guessed correctly. Hu Ju closes his eyes and thinks how embarrassing it is. This bow, they noticed that that bow was on the 2nd level and began to believe that he was on the 5th level. But the fact is that he is still at the very 1st level, as if he could have thought it through that much. He is a simple man who experiences every day in fear, wanting to survive. However, he cannot say such a thing to Cao Chun, and if he pretends, he will pretend to the end. Hu Ju laughs out loud. He speaks well. Su Cao Chun has exactly said his thoughts. She's so smart. She says with a smile that a good teacher and students are good. Su Wan-Q tells the mentor that then shouldn't they go in search of Miss Shu Yuan. Hu Ju, looking at the sky, says that yes, according to rumors, Shangyuan Ling has never backed down from his business, saying if he wants to steal a treasure on a certain day, he will not act the next day. Hu Ju continues, saying that this way Shangyuan Ling will definitely want to steal the treasure today. In the building, Shu Yuan is sitting on the floor. Shangyuan Ling is standing next to her. He leans over to Shu Yuan and says that he asks her forgiveness, but he will have to borrow her image again. Although he doesn't want to, it will be difficult for him to achieve his goal if he doesn't. Magic envelops him. Shangyuan Ling transforms into Shu Yuan, paints her eyes and lips. He says with a smile that disguised as a girl, has his state of mind become more feminine. He kind of felt that Lin Hu Du Jue would see through his whole plan again. He was pretty cute, but only a little bit. Then someone shouts Shangyuan Ling. She didn't expect him to think that way about the mentor. He turns around in shock and sees Hu Ju, Su Wanqiu, and Su Cao-chun. Su Wanqiu shouts at Shangyuan Ling to surrender without resistance. He has no way to retreat. He asks about how they knew he was here. Hu Ju calmly looks at Shangyuan Ling, thinking to himself in shock that he seriously changed into women's clothes. Su Cao-chun says that the mentor has long noticed the shortcomings that he showed, and Hu Ju knew that Shangyuan Ling could easily disguise himself as Miss Shu Yuan, and also that he would decide to disguise himself again after escaping. She had heard that the art of disguise required knowing the exact details of a person in order to make a real copy of him. Therefore, they came to this place, which is most suitable for hiding Miss Shu Yuan. Su Cao-chun tells Shangyuan Ling not to think about running away. They have already notified the people of the royal residence, and they will be here very soon. Hu Ju thinks Shangyuan Ling looks nothing like that in women's clothes. Shangyuan Ling says that as expected from Lin Hu's disciple Du Jue. He spreads his hands to the sides, saying that so far he has acted chivalrously, and they are the few people who can push him to this step. Su Wanqiu shouts at Shangyuan Ling not to talk nonsense, calling him a robber, asking him since when stealing other people's things is a chivalrous act. Shangyuan Ling speaks correctly. His behavior is similar to that of a thief, but it seems to him that this is a fair case. As they know, he wanted to steal that jade hairpin, but did they know that this very hairpin was stolen by the elite of the royal residence in the past? Hu Ju asks like this. Shangyuan Ling says that a few months ago he was drinking in the tavern of the royal residence, and heard a depressed old man gossiping about the past. He said that 10 years ago he was a well-known businessman in the city of Lufeng, but on the way during the delivery he was robbed by a group of hooded bandits. At that time, his wife and children were killed by bandits and his ancestral jade hairpin was also taken away from him. Later, this businessman went to report to the official, hoping that the local authorities would sort out those bandits, but the authorities refused to even consider his complaint. He wandered from place to place for many years, sold off all his family's possessions, trying to hire mercenaries to investigate. And when the investigation came to an end, he found out the shocking truth. It turned out that those robbers in hoods were actually disguised employees of the royal residence, the leader of which was a relative of Prince Jen Nan. They disguised themselves as bandits to kill people just for fun. After that, Prince Jen Nan severely punished his relative, but the matter was hushed up, and the jade hairpin that personified their crimes was also hidden. Shangyuan Ling ends his speech by saying that this time he allegedly steals a jade hairpin in order to tell the prince that someone knows about the crimes committed by the knight's residence. God sees everything. If they go unpunished again, one day they will be followed by a reckoning. Hu Ju thinks that he did not expect that the prince's family would have such a dark past. Shangyuan Ling is indeed the righteous party, and he should let him go, considering that he won't be able to defeat him at all. If he leads him into a corner, then he will decide to fight him. But if he lets him go, it will be a violation of the contract and may even cause discontent on the part of the royal residence. There is a patter of many feet. People are approaching the house. Su Cao-chun tells the mentor that masters from other positions have arrived. Shangyuan Ling thinks that the masters have arrived as reinforcements. He doesn't have time to convince Lin Hu Du Jue to let him go. He has to resort to the worst-case scenario. He shouts to Hu Ju that he is sorry and attacks him with magic. He starts coughing, thinking about what he used on him. Shangyuan Ling tells brother Ling Hu that it is a Kai immobilization powder. Once under it, a person will not be able to use King Gong for some time. Hu Ju tells Shangyuan Ling that he is a scoundrel. Shangyuan Ling asks Hu Ju for forgiveness, saying that he had to resort to this scenario to save his life. He runs away, shouting that Lin will apologize to him again. Su Cao-chun asks the mentor if he is okay. Su Wanqiu also runs up to Hu Ju, asking if everything is fine with him. Hu Ju replies that he is fine. The masters come into the house, telling the hero Ling Hu that they were a little late. What happened here? Su Cao Chun says they figured out Shangyuan Ling's plan and prevented him from stealing the treasure. Su Wan Qiu says that however, he told them something, but it is not known whether it is true or not. Shangyuan Ling then used the Kai immobilization powder and ran away. The master says that to use such a vile method against the hero Ling Hu, it goes against his name as a noble robber. The master continues, saying that if the hero Ling Hu cannot use King Gong, then it will be even more difficult for them to catch up with him. It seems that they only have to let this thief go. Hu Jiu thinks with a smile, that's sorted out. He happily thinks that Shangyuan Ling helped him perfectly and also gave him such a convenient thing as Kai immobilization powder. He doesn't know martial arts at all, so this powder didn't affect him at all. Now, in the eyes of others, he has done everything he could and can successfully complete the task and receive a reward. Behind his back, a girl with a smile says that Lin Hu Du Jue can't use King Gong. She takes out her weapon and with the words "you can't think of a better time," attacks him in the back with an arrow. This is noticed by Su Wan Qiu, who rushes to Hu Jiu's defense and shouts to the mentor to take care. An arrow pierces her chest. Everyone is shocked by such an attack. Hu Jiu catches Su Wan Qiu, who has fallen into them with his hands. Su Wan Qiu coughs up blood. Hu Jiu keeps her from falling. Su Cao Chun is shocked, sister says, asking her if she is okay. Su Wan Qiu tells her mentor that he is safe, but she is so cold. The girl laughs, saying that she was struck by her ice spirit needle. If she doesn't take the antidote within half an hour, she will die of frostbite. The girl continues, saying that unfortunately, she could not get rid of the problem in the form of Lin Hu Du Jue. Nevertheless, killing his beloved student would be enough. The masters tell her that she is a spy of the demon cult and let her not think of leaving without a fight. They will attack together, capture a member of the demon cult and find an antidote for the student of the hero Ling Hu. The girl snorts and asks them that they think they are worthy of stopping her. Immediately, they are all struck by needles. The girl says that she is the deputy master of the Hidden Moon Hall, is good at hidden weapons and King Gong, and they still want to grab her. They should train for this for another 100 years. If anyone can defeat her, it's only Lin Hu Du Jue, but right now he can't even use his King Gong. The girl waves her sleeve with a smile, and a lot of needles fly out of it. The girl with a smile says that then she will leave first, and leaves the place of battle. Su Wan Qiu coughs up blood while lying on the floor. Su Cao Chun is sitting next to her and asks about what will happen to her sister. She tearfully asks Hu Jiu what will happen to her sister. Hu Jiu thinks that at that moment he was completely confused. Wan Qiu's breathing became weak. Cao Chun was crying, as well as the voices constantly asking him. Everything was mixed together. Ling Hu's disciple Du Jue is dying. Why doesn't he go with that member of the demon cult? The hero Ling Hu was caught with Kai immobilization powder, so he cannot go in pursuit. But someone has heard that the immobilization powder blocks the use of scurvy for only a short time. Yes, in theory, he has long been able to use King Gong. People begin to discuss that they have never seen Lin Hu Du Jue in battle. Someone says for sure, Hu Jiu is just a show-off, he's not strong at all. Su Zaya-chun is crying, lamenting that her sister, her only relative. She asks the mentor to save her sister. Hu Jiu thinks that all the voices were mixed together and it seemed to him that he had seen something like this somewhere. He remembered his life before the transition. The sun illuminates a huge skyscraper. There are several people standing in the corridor. Hu Jiu greets Director Lo, saying that he is Hu Jiu, number 015 and came for an interview today. A man is sitting at the table with a cigar and asks number 015 if he has any talents. Hu Jiu replies that he really likes to watch martial arts dramas, and he best imitates the characters in the drama. He can read a paragraph for Director Liu. Hu Jiu clears his throat, and immediately begins to say that the hero Lin Hu Du Jue, the best master in the Celestial Empire. Junior Wu Ming is he ready to become a disembodied sword spirit. Hu Jiu continues to act out his scene, but the director does not pay attention to him. Later, Hu Jiu receives a paper that says not hired. Hu Jiu looks at the sheet with tears in his eyes, saying that he was not accepted. He thinks that maybe he didn't try very hard, and that's why he was refused a job. Hu Jiu thinks that he is an 18-year-old supporting actor. 3 years ago, he quarreled with his parents and said he was going to make a career. After he dropped out of college and lived for many years without a residence permit, he dreamed of becoming famous. His dream was to become a recognized actor and get other roles besides the dragon costume. However, over the years, in addition to playing passersby, he also played corpses. He knows that some are born with a harder fate than others. Hu Jiu is not particularly handsome. He has no money, no proper experience, or even luck. However, he believes that as long as he continues to work hard, as long as he does not give up, One day he will be able to fulfill his dream. Then he gets an SMS on his phone, which makes the device in his pocket vibrate. He looks at the phone, saying that the film crew really changed their mind and still decided to hire him. Hu Ju looks at the phone, laughing and saying, "Great." But a piece of metal plate is flying at him from above. The metal banner falls to the floor. Hu Ju's hand sticks out from under it. There is a pool of blood around. There is a broken phone on the ground. People in the crowd are shouting that the billboard has fallen and someone has been crushed. Someone is shouting loudly that some boy was crushed. "We need to call an ambulance." Someone is shouting that there is blood. The phone with the broken screen vibrates. Hu Ju received a message from someone that they don't have enough people here. Can he come and play a corpse? Salary at the end of the shift. People are screaming that the guy is dead. Hu Ju thinks that God is unfair. Some people are born to be loved, and some people can only be like him, extremely unlucky and unable to escape their painful fate. Then someone laughs behind his back. This is the spirit of the girl who says she gets so sad from Hu Ju's words. He looks at her in shock. The girl continues by saying that she is the goddess who revived him in the martial arts world. Of course, he may not exist at all, and she is just his illusion. The girl continues, saying that his last life was too miserable, and he was not lucky at all. The goddess continues, saying that therefore in this life she allows him to be reborn in a world suitable for him, so that he would be a little more lucky. Hu Ju asks lucky. She calls everything that happens to him luck. Hu Ju says that he was originally a non-entity, and in that new world he is still a non-entity. He doesn't understand martial arts at all. He can only play and pretend to be a master in every possible way, and survive on just one trick. Hu Ju continues, saying that even now they sent a girl who decided to protect him, and he can't do anything. The goddess ponders his words. Hu Ju continues, saying that he has seen many novels, manhwa, films and TV series in which the main character appears, cheats in every way, pretends to be X and manages his life at will. However, he has found a new life, in which everything also remains a useless non-entity. The goddess replies to Hu Ju that it is not worth saying so. She silently watched him and he has many advantages. Hu Ju likes to play more than 99% of the people in this world. And more than 99% of the people in this world Hu Ju likes dumplings. And Hu Ju is more conscientious than 99% of the people in this world. And of course the most important thing is that every time Hu Ju plays a role, he begins to give 100%. The goddess says she will give Hu Ju special help this time, but only this time. It will help him to realize the last style of the 100 concepts of the heavenly host. It will help him in difficult moments. And the name of this style. In the real world, Hu Ju is standing next to Su Wankyu lying on the floor. Su Zanchan cries, asking the mentor to save her little sister. Hu Ju tells her not to worry. He got a little worried and couldn't figure out what to do, and froze in place, but now everything is fine. Hu Ju is about to unsheath his sword and says that he will definitely stop that demon cult member and get the antidote for Wankyu. People around in shock talk about Lin Hu Du Jue taking out the sword. He takes out the sword, but people don't understand why he would take out a sword. The demon cult spy had long since escaped 100 miles away from them. Hu Ju uses 100 concepts of the heavenly host, the 9th style. A powerful stream of magic is flying into the sky. The girl from the demon cult runs away when she is immediately overtaken by Hu Ju. She screams in shock about how this is possible. How did he cover the distance of 100 miles so quickly? Hu Ju uses the art of Bogwebia. Hu Ju uses the Godslayer art and attacks the demon clan girl in the back. She screams in pain, and immediately falls down without strength. Hu Ju calmly looks at the defeated opponent. Masters who do not understand what has just happened resort to the place of battle. A girl is lying on the roof of the house. Blood is flowing from her mouth. One of the masters says that Lin Hu Du Jue suddenly took out his sword, and then moved to the spy of the demon cult at a distance of hundreds of meters. All the people say that Hu Ju's speed is too great, and they didn't even notice anything. People are shouting that this is the true strength of Lin Hu Du Jue. Hu Ju thinks that he has just used the technique for the first time. The 100 concepts of the heavenly host is the 9th style. He remembers how the goddess told him that she would help him realize the last style of the 100 concepts of the heavenly host. This one would help him in difficult moments. Hu Ju thinks that at the most critical moment, it seemed to him that he saw memories before the transition. There in some space, he met a goddess and then instantly realized the movements of this style. Hu Ju continues his musings, thinking that although he does not know what the conditions are for launching this technique, but he allows him to teleport behind the enemy in his field of vision, revealing his full potential by swinging his sword. But the side effect of this technique is very obvious. Hu Ju sheaths his sword and thinks that he is so tired that he can no longer hold his legs. His body is too exhausted right now, he wants to sleep. At least at the last moment, he must take the antidote for Wan Qiu from the hands of this demon cult spy. Hu Ju thinks that he should use the antidote to save Wan Qiu. He can't stop. Hu Ju thinks that he needs to save Wan Qiu. He can't stop. Hu Ju collapses on the body of the demon girl. The masters from below shout that the hero Ling Hu fell on the body of a demon girl. They need to rush to the aid of the hero Ling Hu Du Jue. Hu Ju thinks that he is so sleepy. He hopes that other masters and Cao Chun will be able to save Wan Qiu instead of him. A little later in the day, the sun shines brightly on the house. Su Wangqiu thanks her mentor for saving her life. He answers her that it's nothing to him. Hu Ju tells Su Wangqiu that she was poisoned by a hidden weapon when she closed it. It is he who should thank her. Hu Ju asks Su Wangqiu to come up. Hu Ju thinks to himself that half a day has passed since he collapsed. He only woke up the next morning, and when he woke up, he found that Wan Qiu had regained consciousness. After he lost consciousness, the masters found an antidote instead of him, and how to heal Wan Qiu quickly. When Hu Ju woke up, the people from the royal residence and the master surrounded him from all sides, and they looked at him with respect. It even confused him a little. Zayachun told Hu Ju that the demon woman was Liu De Yuan, the deputy master of the Hidden Moon Hall of the demon cult. The level of her King Gong and hidden weapons were at an ultra-high level, and she was also proficient in disguise techniques. Countless people have been killed by her hidden weapons, and the authorities have been offering a reward for her for many years. Perhaps the art of the Godslayer is not intended to kill the enemy, because his sword could not take her life. She even woke up before him. They say that when Liu De Yuan just woke up, she continued to swear. She said that the demon cult would get her out of prison, and when she got out, she would come to him for revenge. Hu Ju thinks that this trip to the royal residence brought him only one hemorrhoid. And not only did he have a new enemy, but he also didn't find a new teacher for the two sisters. Since he had resorted to the art of the Godslayer, they had become more persistently confused around him. The girls firmly decided for themselves that they would become his students. Su Zayachun brings Hu Ju tea and tells him that Shangguan Liang has sent him a letter. He is shocked and asks her what. Shangguan Liang sent Hu Ju a letter. What is written in it? Hu Ju begins to read the letter, which says, "Brother Ling Hu, last time, in order to escape, he had to use Kai immobilization powder on him. In this regard, someday he will come to him in order to apologize." In addition, he had heard that after he left, disciple Hu Ju was injured by a demon cult. He was lucky that he took out his sword in time to save his student. Recently, he found out that the demon cult was looking for an order to kill Hu Ju, offering a tidy sum for his head. The Hall of the Hidden Moon, the Hall of the Unsurpassed Blade, and the Hall of the Frosty Cold of the demon cult sent masters to kill Hu Ju. The province has been suffering from the cult of demons for a long time, and if Hu Ju wants to eradicate it, then he needs a person who can lead and organize the Great Woolen Current, and he thinks that this person should be Ling Hu's brother. Hu Ju thinks that Shangguan Liang's suggestion makes sense. Even if he has learned the art of the Godslayer, he still does not know what is the trigger for using it. Besides, after using it, he just collapses from fatigue. Hu Ju understands that given this, he will have to live in fear every day. He thinks that all that remains is to find a way to increase his authority, unite schools, and organize a movement to eradicate the cult of demons. And only then will he be able to sleep peacefully. After that, after some time, Zayachun and Wan Qiu all continued to hang around Hu Ju, deciding that he should teach them some arts. Su Zayachun asks her mentor to teach her the sword technique that he previously used to save her sister. Hu Ju says that that technique is called the art of the Godslayer, and this sword art is not easy to understand. Hu Ju continues by saying that if they want to understand the style of the sword, they need to comprehend the method of consciousness. To comprehend the method of consciousness, it is necessary to meditate inside the room, imagining constellations, seas, as well as the primordial emptiness. Later, when Hu Ju sits and meditates alone, he thinks the end is the end. The eldest of the Su sisters wanted to learn new skills from him, but he simply has nothing to teach them. He feels guilty. It's time for him to push himself. For 10 days, he successfully perfected the 5th style of the 100 concepts of the heavenly host, the art of diamond. 5th style, diamond art. During use, you can make yourself invulnerable for a while. For the perfection of this art, it is necessary to imagine how it becomes solid. He thinks that he is solid. It's solid. Hu Ju tries to focus on meditation, thinking he is solid. Then Su Wangqiu abruptly opens the door to him, shouting, "Mentor." Hu Ju tells her that she was not taught to knock. He almost gave himself into the hands of an inner demon. Su Wankyu apologizes, saying she didn't know what Hu Ju was cultivating. She asks the mentor for forgiveness. Hu Ju tells her to forget. He forgives her by asking about what happened to her. Su Wankyu says that before that he asked her and her younger sister to look for good missions, and today she managed to find a suitable mission. Hu Ju asks her to tell him about her. He listens. Su Wankyu says that there is a rich family in the city, the Lin family, and some bad person has been following the myths of the Lin family lately. And they say that that bad man is the only survivor from the village of the Black Vortex, which was once destroyed by the mentor. The first master of the Black Vortex village is Liu Sanjin. Hu Ju thinks over the words of Liu Sanjin, Black Vortex Village. For enemies, every road is narrow. As soon as she mentioned them, he immediately remembered not very good memories. Hu Ju thinks about how it was about 3 years ago, and remembering that event, his heart starts pounding furiously. On a dark and windy night, a breeze stirred the crowns of the trees. That night, he was walking outside the city, but he was accidentally stumbled upon by the robbers of the village of Black Whirlwind. The robbers point a sword at Hu Ju and tell him to stand. He asks the attackers and what they want to do. The robbers shout to him that they will rob him, so he needs to take off his clothes and give all his money. Hu Ju calmly closes his eyes and thinks to himself that he is a decent citizen who went out for a walk in the middle of the night when it came to the point that they want to rob him. He thinks calmly, there is a way out. When he first came to this world, he handed over the corpse of the right guardian of the demon cult to the local authorities, and then he managed to scare off the master of the blade from Japan. He is currently ranked 3rd on the Tiangang list, and many should have already heard his name. He should be able to scare off these robbers. Hu Ju is being spoken aloud by a group of petty thieves. Hu Ju takes his sword out of its scabbard and asks the robbers if they have heard of him, Lin Hu Du Jue. He lets out his kai. Here the robbers begin to talk about what they seem to have heard about Lin Hu Du Jue somewhere. One of them says that he once heard about a young man with a sword who managed to finish off a master of the blade from Japan. And they also say he killed the right guardian of the demon cult. The robbers decide that maybe they shouldn't mess with him. They shouldn't make him angry. Here one of the robbers, sticking out his tongue, shouts, "Master, master." He shouts that he really wants to fight with the master. The other robbers are shouting that this idiot T-Dan decided to fight Lin Hu Du Jue. T-Dan throws his fist at Hu Ju. He looks in shock at the opponent rushing at him. T-Dan hits Hu Ju in the face and he falls to the ground. The robbers, seeing this, say that it turns out Hu Ju is just a weakling. That's how he ended up tied up in the Black Vortex village, because that idiot wasn't afraid of him. The leader of the robbers laughs at him, saying that he did not expect that Lin Hu Du Jue, who occupies the 3rd place in the Tiangang list, would be a scum who does not know martial arts. Another robber tells the boss that if that idiot T-Dan hadn't been in their village, they wouldn't have seen that Hu Ju was just pretending to be a master. Another robber says it's a pity Big Brother Liu isn't here. After all, he was the one who told them to be wary of Lin Hu Du Jue, and he actually turned out to be some kind of incompetent. The man takes out a knife, asking the boss what it might cost them to finish off this mattress. Hu Ju asks the robbers, telling you not to kill him. He asks the guys to keep him alive. He is still young and only a few years ago he moved into this world. He does not want to die. He cries and asks them to please let him go. He was forced to pretend to be a master. The robber points at Hu Ju with his finger and laughingly tells the boss to just look at Lin Hu Du Jue, who has become so obedient. Another robber says that they should finish off Hu Ju as soon as possible, since it already hurts to look at him. The leader of the robbers tells them to take their time and keep this mattress to themselves. They will wait for Sanjin, so he and Hu Ju will have fun. Other robbers start laughing, saying that if Sanjin knew that the master he was so afraid of would be so scared that he would piss himself. It's even interesting that he would think. All the robbers are laughing. Hu Ju thinks with tears in his eyes that it's over. Soon his life will come to an end. Then one of the men runs towards them, loudly shouting alarm. He shouts to the boss that a bear is here. The leader asks again about the bear. In response, the man shouts to him the bear is here. Here the bear paw hits the ground next to Hu Ju. He looks in shock at the huge bear in front of him. The beast lets out a menacing roar. Hu Ju opens his eyes in shock. A huge bear roars loudly, and all the robbers run away in shock in different directions. The bear knocks over the brazier, and flames begin to spread from it. Hu Ju thinks that a person's life is full of uncertainties. Just when he thought he was going to be finished, a brown bear jumped out and made a mess in the bandits' camp. The oil lamps that the bandits used as lighting fell, after which a mountain fire broke out. The robbers tried to take down the bear. The next day, when Hu Ju regained consciousness, there was no one left but him. He found a way to untie and change clothes, and then came to the local doctors. He said that the bandits' camp was attacked by a bear, as a result of which they were killed, and their lair was destroyed. However, after examining the scene, the authorities did not believe his statement at all. The man tells the hero Lin Hu that he is so modest. They ask him to look at this scene, asking how the robbers could kill each other here. Hu Jue says it really wasn't him. The men say that these people have been ruining families and robbing homes for many years, and deserve to die, so no one will accuse Hu Jue of killing them. They call Hu Jue a hero. That's how he received a large monetary reward. And since he had single-handedly destroyed the Black Vortex village, his reputation in Wulin had increased noticeably. However, he knew that the destruction of the Black Vortex bandits village had nothing to do with him at all. Besides, perhaps another person could have known about it. Namely, the first master of the Black Vortex village is Liu Sanjin. Su Zaechun asks the mentor to take up the task with the Black Vortex village. Hu Jue asks what exactly the task is. Su Zaechun says that a miss from the Jingxiu City Fabric Workshop was persecuted by Liu Sanjin, a follower of the Black Vortex village. And it looks like this miss is his target. The owner of the Fabric Workshop wants to hire several Wulin masters in order to arrest Liu Sanjin. Hu Jue is thinking about the arrest of Liu Sanjin. This guy is a serious threat to him and it would be better if he was dealt with. However, he is afraid that he will look for him for revenge. In theory, it is too late to hide from him now. Su Zaechun asks the mentor to take on this task. Su Wonkyu tells the mentor that last time she was unconscious and did not see him use the sword at all. She wants to see it at least once. Hu Jue is amazed by this reaction of his students. Out loud, he tells Hu Jue that it's fine. They can try. Hu Jue thinks to himself that he cannot refuse them. First they will take the task, and then they will be late for it and follow the other masters to deal with Liu Sanjin. A little later, the man spreads his arms wide and greets the hero Lin Hu with a smile, thanking him for coming to help his fabric workshop. Hu Jue asks about where the other masters who took up this task are. They haven't come yet. The man replies that he will not hide from him, although the reward offered by him was not bad. But as soon as the invited masters heard the name of Liu Sanjin, they were just scared. The man continues, saying with a smile that there is nothing to be afraid of with Hu Jue, the best master in the Middle Kingdom. To himself, Hu Jue thinks in fear that this is shit. Hu Jue thinks that it is bad that no one else has come to fulfill this assignment. He will not be able to catch fish in muddy water. However, he has already come here, and does not know what excuse to come up with in order to get out of here. The man asks the hero Lin Hu why he has such indecision on his face. The man suggests that it is possible that even the hero in the form of the first in the Middle Kingdom is afraid of Liu Sanjin. Su Wonkyu immediately shouts that as if this is possible, a man should not underestimate their mentor. Su Zaechun supports her, saying that the mentor is 10 heads taller than this Liu Sanjin and can put him down with one palm. Hu Jue thinks that the girls are overpraising him too much, and if they don't stop now, they will have no choice but to agree. In any case, Liu Sanjin just watches the girl and does nothing. He can only hope that he will not do anything. Out loud, Hu Jue tells the man to worry, he will take care of his daughter. The man rushes to Hu Jue with hugs, thanking him with tears in his eyes. At night, the client arranged for Hu Jue and the girls to live in the house next to his daughter. Wan Qiu and Cao Chun spent the night on the west side of Mrs. Room. He was sleeping on the east side of Mrs. Room. He almost had his soul in his heels, because he was worried that Liu Sanjin would not find her. Then Hu Jue gets up and thinks that someone is behind the door. Who it could be? There's a girl standing outside his door. She tells the hero Lin Hu to forgive him for bothering her. Hu Jue wonders if the girl is not the miss from the fabric workshop that he has to protect. She looks like she wants to tell him something. The girl tells the hero Lin Hu that her father recently spoke to him, but never introduced her. Her last name is Lin, and her first name is Mu'er. Hu Jue asks Miss Mu'er that she obviously did not come to him to introduce herself. Mu'er says it is. She has one request, but since Dad was there at the time, it was inconvenient for her to ask him. Mu'er confusedly continues that right now she would really like to talk to the hero Lin Hu alone. A little later, Hu Jue is sitting in his room with his arms crossed over his chest, looking at Mu'er standing in front of him, asking her to speak. Mu'er tells the hero Lin Hu that even though Liu Sanjin is chasing her, she knows that he is not a bad person. If the hero Lin Hu happens to meet him, then she hopes that he will not harm his life. Hu Jue is thinking about how he can harm his life. It would be nice if he spared his life. However, he can't say such a thing to Mu'er. Besides, she seems to know something, and he would like to listen to her. Hu Jue tells Mu'er that the sword has no eyes, and for him he is the enemy who destroyed his lair in the mountains. And if they meet him, they will inevitably have to fight to the death. Mu'er must have something to hide. If she didn't tell him exactly what she was hiding, then it would be hard for him to agree to such a request. Muir realizes that she seems to have no choice but to tell everything to the hero Lin Hu. However, she hopes that the hero Lin Hu will be able to promise not to tell her about what was said that night to her father. Hu Ju answers well, he will keep her secret. Muir says that then she will tell. Muir begins his story. In fact, Lu Sanjin was her mother's childhood love and they had a relationship. It seems to her that she may be the daughter of Lu Sanjin. Hu Ju is shocked after these words. Muir continues her story, saying that her mother died of an illness about 3 years ago. Before she died, she pronounced the name of Lu Xianjun. When she was little, her mother often told her stories about him. Her mother was born into a wealthy family that had been officials for 3 generations. Lu Sanjin lived next door to her mother's family and was the son of a butcher. Muir's mother was a girl from high society and studied 4 disciplines from an early age: kin, chess, calligraphy, and painting. And Lu Sanjin was a famous street kid who beat people every day long. One day, Lu Sanjin was playing with a child, and during the game, he inadvertently threw a stone into her mom's house, and the stone fell into a flower that her mother raised with all her soul. And since her favorite flower was broken, her mom came out to tell off the one who broke it. The girl shouts to the kids, "Why are they so careless? They broke her family's flower jug to see if they could pay for it." Lu Sanjin laughs, saying that they were just playing. He tells the girl that when he hears her voice, he can tell that the girl is not particularly older than him. And as soon as Lu Sanjin saw Muir's mom, he was fascinated by her. She asked him what it was, and he, amazed, answered her nothing. Lu Sanjin, known as a local juvenile bully, did not show his character for the first time after seeing her mom. After the incident, he went to apologize to his mother, and as an apology, he helped her plant flowers. Lu Sanjin could not enter his mother's house, so he planted flowers by a small river that ran next to her house. Mom sometimes went to look at the flowers that Lu Sanjin planted especially for her. Since then, they have fallen in love with each other. Because of the family rules, it was difficult for the mother to leave the house. She liked to listen to stories about what was happening in the world. So Lu Sanjin ran to the tea shop to listen to local stories, and then memorized them and told her mother. Her mother was very fond of flour sponge cake, so Lu Sanjin ran to the neighboring city to buy it for her. Mom sometimes sneaked away to teach Lu Sanjin to read and write, but Lu Sanjin often ignored everything, not wanting to study. In an instant, several years have passed. Mom and Lu Sanjin have grown up. They loved each other very much and promised to get married without parental consent. However, my mother's family did not agree with her marrying the butcher's son. Rich families are serious about a suitable couple for marriage, because Mom's parents decided to marry her off to the eldest son of the Jifeng family. His mother didn't like him because he was 10 years older than her. As a result, a few days before the wedding, Mom and Lu Sanjin ran away. Hu Ju asks Muir what happened after. Muir says that after Mom and Lu Sanjin ran away together, they came back 2 hours later. Her mom told her that when she came back that day, her eyes were red from crying. Everyone was very ashamed of this, and people from Dad's family even had to cancel the marriage that was originally planned. However, Dad sincerely loved Mom, and insisted over and over again, and finally the marriage remained in force. Hu Ju says that he roughly understands the situation. It turns out that Lu Sanjin is somehow connected with her family. However, considering what was said to her, but not yet the fact that Lu Sanjin could be her father, Muir shouts hero Ling Hu that Lu Sanjin and her mom are gone for 2 hours. 2 hours? Hu Ju replies to her that it may be so, but she should not get so excited. Muir asks the hero Ling Hu to be more lenient towards Lu Sanjin. She will go back to her room to sleep. Hu Ju closes his eyes and speaks well. After Muir leaves, Hu Ju exhales. He thinks that the case is becoming more and more complicated, and Lu Sanjin is not a simple person. So why didn't he just run away with Lin Mar's mother back then? Hu Ju is sleeping with his hands behind his head. Hu Ju is deep asleep when someone shouts mentor loudly. Hu Ju abruptly opens his eyes. Wan Qiu and Cao Chun tell the mentor to get out soon. Wan Qiu asks the mentor about what happened to him. Hu Ju adjusts his kimono. He replies that he was just practicing and asks what's the matter. Wang tells the mentor that Lin Muir has been kidnapped. Hu Ju is shocked. He says sternly that they are going to rescue her. On the street, Hu Ju thinks that everything is too bad. He didn't expect the kidnappers to take advantage of the opportunity when he was in clothes training. Hu Ju asks the girls if the owner of the fabric shop is now aware of the abduction of Miss Lin. Cao Chun says that not so long ago they heard a noise in the neighborhood, so they went to check and noticed how Miss Lin Muir was being abducted by men in black, so it was already too late to tell her father anything. Hu Ju ponders the words about a few people. He asks about the direction in which those people ran. Wan Tzu says to the east. Hu Ju replies okay, in that case Wan Qiu will go east with him on a search, and Cao Chun will go to the owner of the fabric workshop and tell him everything. It would be better if he managed to gather a large number of people. The girls answer him well. Hu Ju sets off with Cao Chun and thinks that according to Wan Qiu and Cao Chun, there were several kidnappers of Mu'er, not one person. Lu Sanjin has been a loner since the Black Vortex village was destroyed, so it's likely that someone else kidnapped Lin Mu'er. Then something catches his attention. Hu Ju and Wan Qiu stop. The girl tells the mentor that there are some people ahead. She tells Hu Ju that it must be those men in black, and they just surrounded Miss Lin Mu'er. Hu Ju is noticed in the crowd of Mu'er men, and he understands that she is really there. Hu Ju thinks that it's worth looking at these people in black clothes. They must specialize in abducting girls. Hu Ju wonders who the man standing in front of them is. Is it really Lu Sanjin? Wan Qiu asks the mentor if they will save Mu'er. Hu Ju tells her that they should watch first. Then one of the men turns to Lu Sanjin and asks him who else he is. He points at Lu Sanjin with a sword and says that life is not dear to him at all, since he dared to stand in their way. Lu Sanjin laughs and tells the men that they will soon say goodbye to their souls from his blade, and they don't deserve to know his name at all. The three of them are thieves and rapists, known as the three brothers of the blue-eyed mouse. He had heard that they had recently moved to this town and that was why he was here. Lu Sanjin takes the blade out from behind his back and says that initially he was just disgusted with them. But he is not at all righteous, and he is too lazy to take care of rats like him. Lu Sanjin holds the sword in front of him and says that however, these three brothers dared to touch her, so let them not blame him for their death. One of the robbers rushes into battle with a sword, shouting that he is talking a lot, apparently looking for death. Lu Sanjin smiles and blows the robber's head off with one blow of the sword. He asks with a smile about who else is looking for death. Hu Ju, watching this short fight, thinks that Lu Sanjin is very strong. Lu Sanjin is standing in front of two men, and next to him lies the corpse of another robber. The men are shocked to say that Lu Sanjin killed his older brother. Another man rushes into battle with a sword, shouting to the third brother that they need to finish him off, avenging the older brother. But the other brother restrains him, telling the second brother that their opponent is a professional. They are not his opponents. He suggests that they retreat now, and then take revenge in the future. The man in response to this says, "Damn, okay, let's go." Lu Sanjin shouts at their backs that they have decided to leave. Shouldn't he have the last word? They turn around in shock, asking what? Lu Sanjin rushes into battle, drawing his sword. He deals with two robbers with one blow. Mu'er watches in shock. Lu Sanjin sheaths her sword and asks Mu'er for forgiveness for having seen such a bloody scene. If he hadn't uprooted the weeds, he's afraid that one day these thieves will come back to take revenge. He cuts the ropes that bound Mu'er's hands with a blow of his sword. Lu Sanjin says that it doesn't matter if they look for him for revenge. They should be afraid of another person. Lu Sanjin leaves when Mu'er shouts Uncle Liu at his back. He stops and opens his eyes in shock. Mu'er asks Lu Sanjin about the fact that he has been following her lately, in fact, to protect her. He does not answer her and does not turn his head. Mu'er, without waiting for his answer, says that yes, it must be so. He heard that these three rapist mouse brothers had infiltrated the city, so they came here to protect him. Lu Sanjin turns his head, saying that yes, no, he only. Mu'er approaches the man and admiringly says thank you Uncle Liu. Lu Sanjin says with a smile that Mu'er is a child, and looks exactly like her mother. He couldn't help but interfere. Mu'er smiles, saying that Uncle Liu often came to visit her mother as a child, and although he was far away, he and his mother knew everything. Mu'er immediately adds seriously, saying that Lu Sanjin needs to leave soon. Her dad was worried about her, so he invited the first master in the Middle Kingdom in order to catch him. Lu Sanjin asks her about who is the first master in the Middle Kingdom. Mu'er says Lin Hu Du Jue. Lu Sanjin opens his eyes wide and immediately starts laughing loudly. Lu Sanjin says with a smile that this Lin Hu Du Jue is just a thief and a show-off. Hu Ju hearing this opens his mouth in shock. Mu'er asks Lu Sanjin in surprise why he says that. Lu Sanjin says that there is a legend all over the world that he single-handedly killed all his brothers in the Black Vortex village, to the point that he even managed to kill his older brother. However, he somehow happened to meet a younger brother from the village of Black Whirlwind, who survived despite his injuries, and what he said is fundamentally different. In fact, Lin Hu Du Jue doesn't know anything about martial arts at all. He was tied up by the brothers Lu Sanjin at the entrance to the village, and if not the bear that broke into it and started a fire on the mountain, then they did not kill each other, and this Lin Hu Du Jue was slaughtered a long time ago. Hu Ju is shocked listening to this, thinking fuck. So someone else managed to survive there besides him. Hu Ju tries to leave, thinking that obviously, knowing the truth, Liu Sanjin will not be afraid of him at all. He'd better get out of here fast. But then Wan Qiu shouts at Liu Sanjin not to dare slander her mentor. He turns around in shock. Wan Qiu points at him with a sword and says that her mentor has the most incredible martial arts in the whole Celestial Empire. Hu Ju is shocked to think that they are fucked. Liu Sanjin looks at Wan Qiu and asks her, calling her a baby, who else she is. Wan Qiu introduces herself as the senior student of the hero Ling Hu, Su Wan Qiu. Hu Ju thinks that the devil Wan Qiu voluntarily stepped forward and now he has only 1 out of 9 chances to die. To stay alive. Since it so happened, we will have to reluctantly try to pretend. Hoping to scare off Liu Sanjin, Hu Ju comes out from behind the wall, saying the last robber is Liu Sanjin. He confidently says that his name is Lin Hu Du Jue. He took on the task of protecting Miss Muir from the fabric workshop. He had just watched from the sidelines how he managed to settle the matter and found out that he had no intention of harming Miss Muir, so he could let him go. Hu Ju asks Liu Sanjin that he will leave or he will have to ask him. Liu Sanjin smiles at the beginning and then starts laughing very loudly. He points at Hu Ju with his sword and asks Lin Hu Du Jue not to dare to pretend. Others may not know, but he personally knows what kind of person he really is. That night, the brothers from the village grabbed him and humiliated him in every possible way. But he got lucky and he ran away. Liu Sanjin continues, saying that Hu Ju probably did not expect that there were other survivors besides him. He knows about all his rotten essence at that time. Hu Ju laughingly asks him if this is really true. Liu Sanjin is lost with the answer. Hu Ju, closing his eyes, says that he was on the road that night and, seeing a mountain fire, rushed to the village of the Black Vortex. He wanted to save the people affected by the mountain fire, but realizing that they were just some thieves and murderers, he cut them all clean. When the fire filled the mountain, he drew his sword and stayed outside the ring of fire, slaughtering all the bandits who want to escape one by one. Liu Sanjin narrows his eyes. Hu Ju releases Kai again, telling Liu Sanjin to think, if this is not the case, then why did only one person manage to survive? The miraculously surviving bandit, whom he knows, was actually too shocked because of what he could imagine anyone. Liu Sanjin looks at him. Hu Ju thinks that he almost believed what he said by himself. The highest level of lying is to mix the truth with lies, and in combination with the art of the deity, the wind, which he resorted to when he uttered the last sentence, was he not afraid? Liu Sanjin tells Lin Hu Du Jue that there is some meaning in what he said, and he also feels the power emanating from him. Liu Sanjin draws his sword, saying that however, he has 3 principles by which he is obliged to fight him. Firstly, if what a brother and an outsider say about one thing is different, he will definitely believe his brother. Secondly, if he meets the enemy who killed his brothers, he will do everything possible to avenge them. The people in Black Whirlwind Village may have been criminals, but they sheltered him, and if he really killed them, then he is his enemy. Liu Sanjin shouts that thirdly, as soon as he has decided something, he will never get scared and run away. Wan Qiu tells the mentor that she will fight him herself. Wan Qiu rushes across Liu Sanjin and crosses swords with him. As a result, they disperse and Wan Qiu strikes again, which Liu Sanjin blocks with his sword. Sparks fly from crossed weapons. Liu Sanjin tells Wan Qiu that she has a pretty beautiful technique for a girl. However, as soon as she delivered her strongest blow, she revealed all her weaknesses in front of him. Wan Qiu rushes into battle again, but Liu Sanjin walks away from her attack, and clenching his fist with force hits her in the stomach. Wan Qiu immediately spits out blood. She falls senseless into the arms of Liu Sanjin. He puts the girl against the wall and says that Liu Sanjin does not kill women and children, so he will spare her. He turns his head and says that now it's the turn of the so-called #1 master in the Celestial Empire, Lin Hu Du Jue. He asks Hu Ju the question that he is going to hide behind the little girl again, as it was now. Hu Ju takes out his sword, thinking that it infuriates him. Why can't he use the Godslayer art again? Hu Ju wonders if the trigger for using the art of the Godslayer is that the enemy should be afraid of him, or the fact that the art of the Godslayer can be used only once. Hu Ju wonders what he should do. Liu Sanjin shouts to Hu Ju to stop talking nonsense. Since he came to fight, then let him fight. Hu Ju thinks that his opponent is very fast. He puts out his sword to block the blow of Liu Sanjin, but he fails and he flies into the wall with force. Blood spurts from his mouth, and the wall beneath him is riddled with cracks. Hu Ju wipes the blood from his mouth with his hand. He understands that Liu Sanjin is strong. He wouldn't be able to take another blow from his blade anymore. Hu Ju's hand, clutching the sword, is shaking. Hu Ju thinks that, to tell the truth, he is now barely on his feet after one blow from Liu Sanjin. Hu Ju realizes that now he can only rely on the 100 concepts of the heavenly host, the art of the whirling flower to keep his body in shape. Lu Sanjin approaches him with a smile, saying that if he had previously suspected, now he is convinced that Lin Hu Du Jue, although he does not understand martial arts from the word at all, still knows some deceptive tricks. Lu Sanjin says that if it were not for his brothers, Hu Ju would not have been famous for achieving their murder. Then even being in the afterlife after death, they cannot close their eyes. Lu Sanjin raises his sword over him and shouts that today he will kill Hu Ju in revenge for their lives. Then someone shouts loudly, "Stop." Muir stands between Lu Sanjin and Hu Ju, who tells Uncle Liu that despite the fact that the name of the hero Ling Hu does not correspond to Hu Ju at all, however, he is not a bad person at all because he took on the task of protecting her. She hopes that he will not harm his life. Lu Sanjin doesn't know what to say. Hu Ju thinks that fine, Lin Muir started to stick up for him. Hu Ju thinks that although this guy made him lose shamefully and injured Wan Qiu, but he doesn't really want to lose to him. However, his skills are not as good as his and the most important thing is to survive first. Lu Sanjin exhales, saying that okay, since Muir asks, he will spare Lin Hu Du Jue's life. But Lu Sanjin says that however this man deceived the whole world for show, and gained his reputation at the expense of his dead brothers, he should pay for it. Lu Sanjin tells Lin Hu Du Jue that tomorrow he must tell everyone in this world that he is a simple liar. And after that, Hu Ju should kneel down and bow 3 times to the floor in front of him. And this is not for his sake, but for the sake of his dead brothers. Hu Ju is silent in response. He clenches his fist in anger. Hu Ju thinks that he has listened to Lu Sanjin's demand, and he doesn't know why, but an incomprehensible anger is boiling in his chest. This is the world of martial arts, a world where the strong devour the weak, and the strong can interpret their rules, as well as speak with their heads held high. Hu Ju thinks that today Lu Sanjin can and is ready to save his life, but like someone who has already died once, his current life is really worthy of respect. Hu Ju laughingly says out loud that it's so funny. Hu Ju releases his Kai again. He tells Lu Sanjin that it's just a duel, whether he really thinks he has already defeated him. He just didn't manage to get into a good stance because he managed to hit him. Hu Ju says that their duel is not over yet. Lu Sanjin says it's interesting. He says with a smile that apparently Hu Ju is not a spineless person. He had just realized the huge gap between himself and him. But Hu Ju was stingy with words because of self-respect. Lu Sanjin takes out his sword and shouts that it's okay, then he will do as he wants. So let Hu Ju stand still and prepare to die. Hu Ju thinks that he is already determined to die. If he wants to defeat him, then he should not retreat, but move towards him face to face. Hu Ju thinks face to face, face to face. Hu Ju attacks Lu Sanjin, but he dodges. Lu Sanjin thinks with a smile that it is so easy to dodge Hu Ju's movements. He will take his life with his next move. Lu Sanjin thinks Lin Hu Du Jue is already dead. He brings his blade to Hu Ju's neck, but the sword cannot penetrate it. Lu Sanjin opens his eyes in shock. He jumps back and thinks in shock about how this is possible. How can Hu Ju's neck be harder than his blade? Hu Ju tells Lu Sanjin that this is not all. Hu Ju takes out his sword, saying the art of the Godslayer. He attacks Lu Sanjin, and he screams in pain. Hu Ju attacks Lu Sanjin, causing him to scream in pain. Hu Ju uses the art of the Godslayer on the enemy. When Hu Ju sweeps past Lu Sanjin, he starts spitting blood. Muir walks up to him, saying Uncle Liu in a trembling voice. He answers her with a smile that he is fine. He will not die. Hu Ju sheaths his sword, and Lu Sanjin tells Lin Hu Du Jue that his sword is fast. Lu Sanjin presses his hand to his chest wound and says that he really did not expect that he would turn out to be a person with real skills. Lu Sanjin wipes the blood from his mouth again and asks Hu Ju that if this is the case, then why did he hide his skills from him from the very beginning and pretend to be a weak person? Hu Ju replies that he does not seek to chase the strong and does not want to dominate the weak. He aspires to the noble path. After that, Hu Ju falls unconscious. Muir presses his hands to his mouth in shock and says Hero Ling Hu. Lu Sanjin says that everything is fine with Hu Ju. He just fell asleep. Lu Sanjin says that although he does not know the reason, it is most likely caused by fatigue from using a strange technique just now. So it turns out Hu Ju can use invulnerability and the technique of instant sword thrust, but all this is not without consequences. Muir asks about Uncle Liu, what he is going to do next. Lu Sanjin covers his eyes, saying that when Hu Ju swung his sword, he aimed at the vulnerable point of his sword, but did not take his life. Then Lu Sanjin had already lost. His skills are not so good. He will start improving his martial arts again, and then come back and fight him again in a duel. Lu Sanjin raises his sword, turns around and leaves, saying that it's time for him, he can't stay here for long. It won't be long before people from the government show up here. Mu'er shouts to him, wait. He turns his head to her. Mu'er tells Uncle Liu that he has a question she would like to ask him. Lu Sanjin freezes in silence. Mu'er asks Lu Sanjin that he is not her father by any chance. Lu Sanjin opens his mouth in shock. He shouts that Mu'er is a teenager, how can this be? Mu'er says that on that day, Lu Sanjin ran away with her mom for 2 hours. Lu Sanjin says that on that day he just took her to a place where she had always dreamed of going. And then her mom hit him. Mu'er opens his mouth in shock, asking Lu Sanjin about her mom hitting him. Many years ago on the outskirts of the city, Lu Sanjin stands with Mom Mu'er in the middle of a flower field. The girl with a smile says that it is so beautiful here. Lu Sanjin says in response, yeah, he just thought she would like this place, that's why he brought her here. Lu Sanjin adds with a smile that even as a child, at their first meeting, he broke her flower, and now he brought her here to somehow apologize for what happened then. The girl asks the truth with a smile. He was about 5 or 6 years old at the time, and she did not think that he would be such a caring person. Mu'er's mom looks at Lu Sanjin and confusedly says that now he has taken her to such a beautiful place and wants to tell her something. Lu Sanjin tells her yes, he needs to tell her something. She looks at him with a smile. Lu Sanjin says they should take this opportunity to say goodbye. Lu Sanjin continues, telling him to just think about what he said earlier, that wanting to marry her is bullshit. She'd better go back and marry the noble son of a family of weavers. Mom Mu'er says Lu Sanjin, and immediately shouts at him that he is an idiot. He forcefully punches Lu Sanjin in the face. Mu'er stands in front of Lu Sanjin and looks at him. Mu'er asks him about why he said something like that to her mom. Lu Sanjin replies to her that because he understood that if they continued to secretly escape, it would be difficult to achieve a result. Lu Sanjin continues by saying that his mother was actually a high society girl. She ran away from the wedding when she was young and stayed with his father, who prided himself on being a noble man. The two fled to the village where he was born. They thought that their union would bring happiness. However, because of their different backgrounds, they often quarreled over trifles. Over the years, they got tired of each other, and after that they disliked each other at all. His father often drank, and his mother had to constantly do a lot of heavy routine work. And when they were very tired, they started arguing with each other. As a result, his mother died sooner or later due to overwork, and his father became an even greater scum of society. Lu Sanjin tells Mu'er that since he grew up in such a family, the day he decided to run away with her mother, he went to talk to his father at the beginning. It seemed to him that a man like him would follow in the same footsteps as his father. Therefore, then he gave up his desire and said goodbye to her in a sea of flowers. Mu'er tells Lu Sanjin that he was really rude. Everyone has their own life, so why was he so sure that the same thing would happen to her mother? Mu'er continues by telling Lu Sanjin that she thought about him all the time before her mom died. Maybe he shouldn't have left then. Lu Sanjin replies to her that life cannot be turned back, and since it has happened, there is nothing to be done. Lu Sanjin tells her with a smile that the child is so concerned about the affairs of adults. He asks Mu'er to take good care of her father and marry a man from a good family in the future. Then Lu Sanjin hears something and he tells Mu'er that he seems to have heard someone coming here, and it's time for him to run. Mu'er shouts Uncle Liu as Lu Sanjin takes off. He runs away and disappears into the night. Lu Sanjin thinks that, as she wanted, he repeated his name before he died. Lu Sanjin thinks that perhaps if he had had the same courage as Lin Hu Du Jue back then, he would have had a different ending. After sleeping for a whole day, Hu Jue woke up. He opened his eyes while lying on the bed. Last night, he not only resorted to the art of the Godslayer, but also to the art of the diamond. Now Hu Jue began to understand a little the specifics of the art of the Godslayer. The art of the Godslayer is an excellent technique. It can only be used when the opponent is afraid of him. Lu Sanjin wasn't afraid of him from the very beginning, so he couldn't use the art of the Godslayer. And when Lu Sanjin saw how he used the art of the diamond, he was scared, and only then did he manage to use the art of the Godslayer. Hu Jue wonders what the conditions are for using the art of Alameza in this case. Then Mu'er's father, Wan Qiu, and Cao Chun come into his room. The man joyfully addresses him with the phrase that the hero Ling Hu has woken up. Wan Qiu happily tells the mentor that he has woken up. Cao Chun happily holds out the mentor. The man with a smile says a big thank you to Hu Jue for saving his daughter from rapists, and also thanks him for driving Lu Sanjin away. He laughs and says that the hero Ling Hu deserves his title of hero. He hands him a bag, saying that there is 500 liang of silver here, and he asks him to take the money. Lan Qiu and Cao Chun with a smile says that, of course, this is their mentor. Hu Ju stands and throws the bag in the air, thinking that the owner of such a workshop gave him 500 liang of silver as a reward. Considering the 3,000 liang of silver he had earned, he now had a total of 3,500 liang of silver. Hu Ju wants to save up some more money and buy himself a house in the city of Guangping. So he went to the jewelry workshop in Guangping. Firstly, he went there in order to put money into a bank account, and secondly, in order to find out from the owner of the workshop information where he could earn extra money. The man with the smile says Hu Ju clearly. He continues, telling Hu Ju that in his opinion, if he saves about 1,500 liang more silver, he will be able to buy a good house in an elite area of Guangping City. Hu Ju is thinking about collecting another 1,500. Then it turns out that he will have to complete a couple more tasks. Hu Ju asks the owner of the workshop what task he could recommend to him. A man with a smile asks that the hero Ling Hu wants to take the task. Hu Ju says that recently he got bored of killing and he would like to take a task where he would not have to shed blood. The man sighs and says that maybe he will have one such task. The girl stands on a pedestal and shouts that people should watch and not miss. The second miss of the Due family in Guangping City is organizing a competition to find a groom. She shouts to respected gentlemen not to pass by. As soon as anyone can defeat all the applicants, he will be able to marry a girl from a noble family. Today, the organizer of this event, Kyo Due, is at the places for the honored guests. Miss Kyo Zioner from the Due residence, as well as an invited guest of honor, hero Lin Hu Du Jue, number 1 on the Tiangang list. The girl approaches Kyo Due and says that first of all they would like to ask the gentleman what he expects from today. Kyo Due answers her that in their Cao family, warriors have been brought up for generations, so it is a mandatory fact for a son-in-law to have strength. He takes the microphone from the girl and shouts to everyone to listen here. They should enjoy the fight from the bottom of their hearts. If this old man decides that they are the real weaklings, then he himself will enter the arena and finish them off. The girl takes the microphone back and laughing says that at first glance you can see that Mr. Kyo Due is a big fan of martial arts. But nevertheless, he cannot interfere in the competition to find a groom for his daughter. The girl approaches Miss Kyo Saner and says that now we would like to ask her what she thinks. She confusedly replies that she is only a weak girl. What can she think? She just thinks that the hero Ling who's sitting next to her is very handsome, and she has been admiring him for a long time. Miss Kyo Saner rushes to Hu Ju and says that she chooses the hero Ling Hu. The reporter girl tells Miss Saner that she herself suggested this martial arts competition. How can she confess so quickly to the guest sitting next to him? The girl approaches Hu Ju and says that finally the hero Ling Hu, whether he wants to say anything. Hu Ju says that he is here today for only one reason, to see the strength of the participants. Hu Ju thinks to himself that in fact he was just offered too much. The first group of warriors is invited to enter the arena. This is the inner disciple of the Towering Dragon Temple, Lin Ziyuan against the warrior Shen Daniu from Zhonghu. Shen Daniu laughingly tells Lin Ziyuan that the handsome man from the Temple of the Towering Dragon decided to participate in the competition for the groom's place. He asks him to be careful, otherwise he will beat him to death. Lin Ziyuan tells his opponent that he is a brute. He will deal with him in 3 moves. Shen Daniu says with a smile, "Okay, let's start." The girl screams that the warriors are already eager to fight. In this case, she announces the start of the competition. Lin Ziyuan stands panting. His opponent, Shen Daniu, spits blood. Shen Daniu falls exhausted to the ground, defeated in a duel. The girl screams that the contest is over. It is won by Lin Ziyuan from the Temple of the Towering Dragon. Lin Ziyuan stands over the defeated opponent and laughingly says that this brute was able to fight with him, an outstanding disciple of the Towering Dragon Temple. The girl shouts that someone else wants to give Lin Ziyuan a hard time. People in the crowd shout "Aye," raising their hands up. Lin Ziyuan wipes his sweat and thinks that after completing one fight, he has to take the battle immediately in the next. It will be hard. The girl says that the next competition is about to begin. But before that they ask the hero Ling Hu to comment on the last duel. She approaches Hu Ju and asks the hero Ling Hu what he thinks about the duel that took place. Hu Ju calmly replies that the opponent's forces were equal, but Lin Ziyuan was superior to his opponent in speed, and Shen Daniu in strength. Endurance plays a key role in such fights. Hu Ju continues, saying that in the end, the victory was in the hands of Lin Ziyuan due to his large stamina reserve. Lin Ziyuan thinks about what the hero Ling Hu is talking about in general. It was obvious that he had used the Huasan Stick Clan's technique for a surprise attack, as a mockery of the man who was not a skilled warrior and injured his diaphysis from the back. Didn't Hu Ju notice that? Lin Ziyuan thinks that it can't be. The hero Ling Hu is so strong that he couldn't miss such a thing during the junior duel. Hu Ju looks at Lin Ziyuan and his strange look and immediately winks at him, giving him a thumbs up. Lin Ziyuan immediately smiles sheepishly, thinking that Hu Ju was just concerned about the dignity of their towering dragon temple, so he deliberately hid the truth. He is so touched as expected from the hero. He is so caring. Here the guy at the top stands laughing and says that the chick from the temple of the towering dragon. He began to rejoice too early. Now he, Zhu Dong from the Tiangshuan Palace, will be his opponent. Lin Ziyuan asks again about the Tiangshuan Palace. Isn't it forbidden for them to get married according to the rules of Tiangshuan Palace? So why is he here? Zhu Dong says, sticking out his tongue, that as soon as he marries the most beautiful and richest woman, he will reach the peak of his life and will certainly leave the current. Zhu Dong draws his sword, rushes into battle and shouts to Lin Ziyuan that he has had enough of talking and should fight him. Lin Ziyuan blocks the attack and immediately counterattacks. Hu Ju is watching their fight. He thinks that later, as a judge, he watched dozens of battles and he had to comment on each battle. The girl approaches him and asks the hero Ling Hu about what he thinks about the past battle. Hu Ju replies that in the current battle, Zhu Dong blinked at the most crucial moment, and if he hadn't blinked, he would have won. The girl asks the hero Ling Hu what he thinks about the last battle. Hu Ju replies that Fan Ruo Yuncheng is quite handsome, being in close proximity with the enemy, and produced a real sex bomb strike. His opponent has already blinked, so this is a victory without any struggle. The girl asks the hero Ling Hu about what he thinks about the last battle. Hu Ju replies that Tao Qi from the Liu family is flirtatious and good at seduction. Hu Ju says this wave is the wave. Hu Ju coughs into his fist and thinks that after a long speech, then he began to talk complete nonsense. But no one suspected anything, because of his #1 status in the Middle Kingdom. Even if he talks nonsense, in the eyes of others, it seems that the truth is hidden in this. The contest lasted for 1 big hour and he was doing commentary all the time. Just when he felt a little drowsy, a fighter who had remained invincible for a long time appeared. There is an old man in rags in the ring, who laughs and says that he did not expect that all those who forced themselves to be masters of Wulin would not be able to cope with one poor old man. He has not been married for 46 years, and if he continues to win like this, then the beauty will have to marry him. Kaio Due thinks that this old beggar has already won 7 battles in a row. I wonder who the old man is. Kaio Due thinks that he has already said that whoever wins the competition will be able to marry Xiang. Would his little girl have to marry that old fart after all? Xiang with tears in her eyes shouts no, she won't marry him. Kaio Due tells the hero Ling Hu that he cannot let this man win. What should he do? Hu Ju replies that although this man is old and disrespectful, he did not break the rules. His disqualification would only ruin Kaio Due's reputation. Hu Ju continues, telling him to let him think, maybe he can come up with something. Hu Ju thinks to himself that this old man looks very strong. The old man must be a famous master from the Tiangang list who is not easy to deal with. Hu Ju doesn't know what to do. Should he let Wan Qiu change into men's clothes and save the performance? But Wan Chu and Cao Chun are somewhere in the city now, shopping, and besides, she is unlikely to be able to defeat the old man. Then someone from the crowd laughs, and says that he really thought that the master of the wine street, Gun Wang, the 29th in the Tiangang list, would pretend to be an old beggar. A man with a fan and a mask in front of his eyes asks the old man why he shouldn't play with him. The man looks directly at Hu Ju. The same one, seeing this, thinks about why this person seems so familiar to him. Sweat begins to flow down his face. A man with a fan in his hand stands and smiles. The old man turns his head to him and studies him carefully. Here the old man laughs and asks the youngest how he managed to recognize him. The old man asks the man where he came from. The man answers him that the younger one has no name. The old man sighs and says that unwillingness to give his name does not give a man the right to show off in front of this old beggar. The old man rushes into battle and shouts that he will check the man with his stick. The old man hits with a stick, shouting get it. The man smiles in response to the attack, and very easily walks away from the attack. The old man laughs, and pushing his stick off the ground, soars up, preparing to attack the man. Kaio Due and Xiang watch the duel in shock. The man opens his mouth in shock. The old man rushes into battle at this time, but the man blocks the attack with his fan. The old man's foot is stuck in the fan. The man repeatedly walks away from the old man's attack, while smiling, making it more playful. As a result, the man starts laughing, telling the old man that he is simply amazing. The man says that everyone around him calls the old man the king of the stick, but he could not have expected that his opponent's technique would be so good. The old man also smiles and tells the man that he is not so bad, since he was able to dodge several of his attacks. The old man continues, saying to the opponent, "Let me think." His movement technique is familiar to him. He asks the man that he is not a disciple of the shadow by the hour. The man smiles, saying that it seems the old man recognized him. He continues, saying that in this case, if he does not give his all, he will only tarnish the reputation of the elder. The man rushes into battle, pointing in front of him with a fan. The old man blocks his fan attack with his stick. The man immediately rushes into battle, making a jump up. He finds himself in the sky above the old man. He raises his head in shock and thinks that this is a skill, Meridian of the Cloud Ladder of the Yuden faction. But the old man immediately smiles, thinking that, however, this boy is still very young. Does he not understand that hanging in the air, his enemy is completely open to attack? The old man points up with a stick and shouts to the man that if so, then he should not blame the old man for being rude. He hits a man right in the chest with a stick, and immediately the man is scattered by smoke in the air. The old man looks at the sky above him in shock, not understanding what happened. The man at this time turns out to be behind the old man on the side. He uses shadow cloning techniques against his enemy. The old man screams, covering his hands from the magic directed at him. The man stops on the ground, and the old man stands with a stick in his hands. Then the old man starts coughing up blood and falls to the ground. The man is smiling. He defeated his enemy. A man stands while his defeated enemy can barely stand on his feet. The man smiles, folding his fan. People watching the fight open their mouths in shock, not understanding what it was just now. Hu Ju looks at the candidate who won the fight in silence. A man from the crowd says that although he did not see it completely, but he has a hunch. That masked guy used the Meridian of the Cloud Ladder of the Wudong faction, which allows a person to move through the air, but it has flaws that make you expose your weaknesses. And when that old man saw an opportunity, he wanted to use it to attack the guy in the mask. However, the silhouette that appeared after using the Meridian of the Cloud Ladder is just an afterimage. People are shocked to ask again about the afterimage. The man continues, saying that yes, the guy in the mask broke through the speed limit, after which an afterimage formed in his place. He continues by saying that the masked man fooled the old man with an afterimage, and then instantly pierced his acupuncture points dozens of times, and now this old man's meridians are sealed, so he can only stand in his place. People around immediately start shouting that the man in the mask is strong. That's the power. They wonder who this man is and where he is from. His Qigong skills may even be higher than Lin Hu Du Jue's. Xianger says admiringly that the masked brother is so handsome. Hu Ju, who was watching the fight, also thinks. He thinks about the fact that not only did the walking prince suddenly burst into the competition, he also emerged victorious in it, so he also started saying something about that guy Zudong. He has some mixed feelings. Hu Ju looks at the masked man and thinks about how to say. The masked man has excellent skills in Qigong and acupuncture, as well as solid movements. Hu Ju thinks that the masked man reminds him a lot of that guy. The old man speaks well and laughs. He continues by saying that as expected from a shadow disciple, the younger generation is starting to breathe in the back of their heads. The old man continues by saying that the afterimage technique the man used was created by a shadow. This is the best military equipment in the world. The man answers the old man that yes, the afterimage technique is the most famous technique of the master. The masked man continues, saying that he also used to think that this was the best technique in the whole world. But a few days ago he had to admit that this was not the case. He turns to Hu Ju and says that the Ling Hu hero sitting there can use a sword technique that can kill a person 100 meters away from him. The old man asks again about whether it is true. Is this kid talking nonsense really that strong? The old man sighs, says the youth, one is better than the other, there's nothing you can do about it. The old man continues, telling the masked man that since he managed to immobilize him with acupuncture, he lost. He asks the man about when he will release him so that he has the opportunity to admit defeat. The man laughs in response and says that it is a great honor for him to be recognized as an elder. As for acupuncture, very soon the old man will come to his senses and be able to move. The man leans over to the old man and asks why the elder came to the arena where the son-in-law competitions are held. Does the old man really want that girl's hand so much? The old man laughs in response. He says that although decades ago he could have been seduced by female beauty to the point of spying on his master, right now he's just a useless old man. The reason he came to this competition was because he was under the influence of the moment. A man with a smile asks like this. A month ago, news was announced about a contest that Miss Du Wai is arranging to find a groom. He was drinking with a youngster who wanted to take a chance and try his luck. He thought, due to this competition and marrying a lady of a noble family, to get rid of his fate of a starving man. The youngster begged him all day to teach him some fighting techniques, but he was too lazy to do his training. And then the youngster began to walk around and look for people with whom he could compete to get real combat experience. Subsequently, 2 days ago, the old man heard how the youngster met in a tavern with a henchman of the demon clan of the Hall of the Incomparable Blade. The youngster could not recognize how strong a member of the demon clan was, so he asked the opponent about sparring, and as a result he had to lay down his life. And the old man. In recent days, the youngster began to dream about him often. And in a dream, the youngster constantly brags to him, and he listens to it all. It was annoying. The old man thinks that if he had taken him up then and taught him the skills, the youngster would not have died like this. Although the youngster's death was just a boomerang due to his own greed. But he often drank with him and he wanted to do something for him. That follower of the demon clan could not be found, and even if he was found, the youngster died as a result of sparring. And he has nothing to avenge. The old man's hand holding the stick starts to shake. He continues, saying that with pain in his heart, he arrived at these competitions to find a groom in order to somehow defuse the situation. He doesn't like that some people are looking for a son-in-law based on combat fights, which forces the younger generation to go through fierce battles, putting their lives on the line. The man in the mask tells the old man that he understood him and the elder has nothing to regret. He looks at the judges and says that even though he won, but in fact, a man with a smile says that he is here to cause chaos. The leading girl tells the crowd that a mysterious young man who appeared on the stage defeated an old beggar who won 7 victories in a row. She continues, shouting that no one has any doubts that at the moment the man in the mask is the strongest contender. The man smiles, and the girl continues to shout that there are still applicants who want to challenge him. People in the crowd are silent, no one expresses a wish. Other eliminated participants discuss that even they will find it difficult to stand up in a duel with a man in a mask, because they have not even seen his movements. Who wants to get into a fight with him? The other applicant agrees with him. The masked man must be one of the famous masters on the Tiangang list. People in the crowd start shouting, "Let him win." They cheerfully shout and raise their fists up. The girl speaks well, since all the viewers are so enthusiastic. Then the girl immediately gets embarrassed, saying that first they need to listen to what Mr. Du Jue and Miss think about this. She asks Mr. Du Jue, "Miss, if she can declare this young man the winner in the competition for the groom's place." The girl after these words is embarrassed and leaning her hands against her cheeks, says that she does not mind. Although she didn't see his face, she already feels that the winner is extraordinarily handsome. But immediately the girl turns her head towards Hu Ju and says that on the one hand handsome Lin Hu, and on the other handsome in a mask. She wonders who she should choose. Hu Ju, seeing her reaction, thinks about her not looking at him. This is without options. Mr. Du Jue coughs and addresses the masked man with the word kid. He turns his head at the sound. He says that despite the fact that he recognizes the skill of the man in the mask, he still continues to hide his true face behind the mask, which means that he is not very sincere. He asks the man if he could take off the mask. The man in response spreads his hands and wonders that appearance and face are so important at martial arts competitions. Mr. Du Jue says that he is still going to take his son-in-law into the house, therefore he should be satisfied that the skill of the participant corresponds to his appearance. A man in a mask leans a fan against his face and says that well, if everyone wants to see his face so much, then he will show it. He opens the fan in front of his face, and immediately magic begins to sparkle around him. People are watching in shock with their mouths open. The mask flies to the side, hitting the stone tile. The man asks Mr. Du Jue if he will be satisfied with his face. The same at this time gets up from the chair, opening his mouth. The girl leading next to him opens her mouth in shock as well as Du Jue's daughter. Everyone is shocked by something. A man with a fan in his hands finishes his question and smiles. His face is exactly like Mr. Du Jue's. He shouts in shock what is happening and why the man has the same face as him. People in the crowd are also wondering what is going on here. And why does this masked man look the same as Mr. Du Jue? Someone wonders if this martial artist really is the younger brother. The man at the same time says that he looks the same as Mr. Du Jue. Shouldn't he be happy about it? The man points with a fan in front of him and tells Du Jue that when they decided to hold this competition to find a son-in-law, he was not looking for someone who could bring happiness to his daughter. The man clenches his teeth in anger after these words, and the man with the fan continues, saying that Mr. Du Jue is just looking for someone who would be like him. And as for the young miss, she doesn't think about anything at all, because her head is empty. And the young talents dying in this competition, in search of a son-in-law, are just a solid loss. Mr. Du Jue asks the man that he apparently showed up here to disrupt the competition. The man smiles and says that he came only to maintain the reputation of the hero of Lin Hu. However, he turned his attention to the destruction of this situation. Mr. Du Jue shouts daredevil and gives the others an order to rein him in. The man laughing says that's how it means. He is surrounded by warriors with weapons. The man again hides behind the fan and with the help of magic changes his appearance, saying that in this case he will have to stretch his muscles. Later at night, Shangguan Ling is sitting and drinking tea at the bar. He sits calmly with a mug in his hands. People sitting in a bar discussing the latest news. A couple of hours ago, the arena that Mr. Du Jue organized to find the groom was completely destroyed. And they say that the person who destroyed it was the noble robber Shangguan Ling himself. Shangguan Ling takes a sip, and one of the visitors asks again about Mr. Shangguan. In response, the interlocutor asks him that Shangguan Ling wanted to declare himself in this way. This time he even beat up all the guards of the masters of Mr. Du Jue. Then Hu Ju comes up to him and says that he has finally found him. Hu Ju tells Shangguan Ling that he just trashed the place he was invited to as a guest, which made him a little embarrassed. Shangguan Ling laughs in response, saying that if brother Ling Hu did not want to earn a living, he would hardly have gone to such a place. Hu Ju sits down at the table and tells Shangguan Ling, saying that there is truth in his words. Hu Ju asks Shangguan Ling not to say that he did all this in order to find him. Shangguan Ling replies that he was thinking at his leisure about the past incident, so he wanted to apologize and have a drink with him. And in a more serious voice, Shangguan Ling adds that he also wanted to have a serious talk with brother Ling Hu about the important matter he mentioned back then. Hu Ju asks the truth. Shangguan Ling tells brother Ling Hu that he needs to unite the free martial arts factions and lead them in a punitive campaign against the demon cult. There are two world lists. The first list is Tiangang, which represents the strength rating of worthy people in martial arts. The other list is Dish's list, which presents the most vicious people. The masters from the Tiangang list have different origins. Some of them are government officials, some are only from newly founded sects, and some are noble robbers where there is no school behind them at all. However, the villain from Dish's list is very cohesive and united in the cult of demons. Simply put, the masters from the Tiangang list strive to become stronger, because the 10th rank master in the Dish list is comparable in strength only to the 15th rank of the Tiangang list. However, each of the Tiangang list prefers to fight alone, because they are more like scattered sand, while the members of the demon cult from Dish's list were united. In recent years, the masters from the Tiangang list have been killed less and less, but the power of the demon cult has continued to grow. Shangguan Ling says that in the current situation, he would like to invite the hero Ling Hu to come forward and gather disparate masters from all corners. He continues by saying that if the hero Ling Hu, who is the first in the Celestial Empire, becomes the leader of the Martial Arts Alliance and forms a punitive alliance against demons, definitely all the masters will respond to this call. Hu Ju doesn't know what to say to that. He thinks to himself that it is already dangerous for such a vain person as him to be the first in the world. But isn't it more dangerous to be the leader of the Martial Arts Alliance? Hu Ju understands that, however, now the demon cult is offering a substantial sum for his head, so sooner or later they will kill him anyway. Hu Ju comes to the conclusion that an attack is the best defense. He must take the initiative and attack the cult of demons. Hu Ju coughs out loud. He tells brother Shangguan that what he said makes sense. However, does he have any specific suggestions? Shangguan Ling covers herself with a fan and tells brother Ling Hu it's good that he asked this. He tells him that there are 3 major righteous martial arts sects, and these 3 schools account for more than a dozen masters of the Tiangang list. The Wuding sect, the Songlin sect, and the Qingcheng sect. Swordsman Zai Shu from the Qingcheng school is an incomparable master and ranks 6th in the Tiangang list. She is one of the best swordsmen in martial arts. She is extremely strong, and he also lost to her by a small margin. Xiao Yaozi from the Wuding school is a master of pure and solid inner strength. Not only does he possess profound palm skills, but he is also one of the few masters in the world who can make sword kai physical, ranking 5th in the Tiangang list. And Master Yuan from the Songlin school, his martial techniques are incomprehensible, because the representatives of the Tiangang list put him in 4th place, although it seems to him that his strength may be higher than that. Shangguan Ling continues, saying that's just, they can't use their sword kai to hit an opponent 100 meters away from them. Hu Ju thinks that Shangguan Ling is flattering him too much. He says out loud, that is, Shangguan Ling thinks that he will visit the nearest sects in order to offer them to create a punitive alliance against demons. Shangguan Ling replies that yes, although the three great sects may have heard the name of the hero, but they do not know. He says that perhaps Hu Ju should personally pay them a visit. Shangguan Ling says with a smile that something happened recently on Mount Yuden that is apparently connected with the cult of demons. Later on Mount Yuden, Wan Qiu asks the master about why they came to Mount Yuden. He replies to Wan Qiu and Cao Chun that they say they noticed members of the demon cult near Mount Wuding, who have already killed 4 students. He began to worry about it, so he decided to check it out. Wan Qiu is shocked to say that they have a deep enmity with the demon cult. Therefore, if they meet with them, then let them sort it out. Cao Chun tells his sister not to act so rashly anymore, since she has already been unconscious twice. Wan Qiu shyly says that she will be attentive, and this time she will definitely not disgrace the master. Cao Chun smiles back. Hu Ju thinks that Wan Qiu is not bad at martial arts, so she can handle some ordinary member of the demon cult. Only he has no idea how many masters from Dish's list can be here. There's someone in front shouting at them about who they are. Hu Ju, along with Wan Qiu and Cao Chun, freeze in silence. 2 men ask them where they came from. One of them is screaming about why these damn arrogant bastards haven't told them their names yet. Lin Qiu shouts back to the men that his manners were not taught. Cao Chun supports her sister, namely, the arrogant behavior of men just annoys her. The same one in response grins and says that their sect belongs to the 3 great sects of this world, so why can't they be arrogant? He continues by saying that the guy in white, as he looks, is the same swordsman as him. He asks Hu Ju, so why doesn't he talk to him instead of hiding behind a woman's back? Wan Qiu takes out the sword and says that her master has nothing to go to the man for, she will deal with him herself. The man rushes into battle with a smile, pulling the sword out of the scabbard, and saying, well, He Jiao Zunchuan will teach them a lesson not by the usual method. Then someone from above gives him the command to stop. The men turn to the speaker in shock. This is the 3rd elder. The men bow their heads to the 3rd elder and ask why he is here. The elder replies that he is here to stop his juniors from shaming their sect. He apologizes to Hu Ju for not keeping track of his juniors. The elder tells the hero Ling Hu that he asks him to follow him to the mountain. After these words, the men shout hero Ling Hu in shock. They realize that the man in front of them is Lin Hu Du Jue. Hu Ju, Wan Qiu and Cao Chun find themselves in front of a large staircase leading to the castle. They pass to the gate behind the elder. He tells Master Ling Hu that the younger one was so rude and insulted him just now, so he asks him for forgiveness. The man introduces himself, saying that he is King Fengzi, the 3rd elder of the sect, and he participated in the mission of the palace, and also the 59th junior on the Tiangang list, so Hu Ju may not remember that, but he always remembered him. He says admiringly that Hu Ju then picked up a sword at a distance of 100 meters and slashed the demon killer. King Fengzi witnessed the whole process. Hu Ju thinks that King Fengzi is too enthusiastic. Aloud, he tells the man that he is older than him in age and experience. They should not treat him with such politeness. He shouts back in shock that King Fengzi says that his favorite disciple Zhang Yunxiu is his fan and told him that Hu Ju is 300 years old. This is already a semi-immortal body, and therefore it can be rejuvenated. Hu Ju replies with a smile that no, it's not. King Fengzi says that's how it is. He sits down on a chair and says that currently all the elders except him and the 2nd brother have closed for self-improvement. He asks Hu Ju if he may have heard what happened. There are people from the demon cult who often fight with their disciples at the foot of the mountain, and have already killed 4 of their disciples. Now the residents of Shanmen are in a panic, and he and the 2nd elder take turns patrolling the district. He asks Hu Ju that he is here because of the demon cult. He replies that yes, he is here because of the cult. He says that he recently received news that the demon cult offered a huge reward for his head, so it's in his best interests. Hu Ju continues by saying that the Jianghu demon cult has been around for a long time. He hopes to unite with the Yuden faction and other martial arts schools to put an end to the demon cult successes. King Fengzi replies that the question proposed by hero Ling Hu is really urgent. Their faction wanted to stay away, but they leave them no other choice. They dare to kill their students so brazenly on their own territory. But he and his 2nd brother cannot make such a decision on their own. He asks for permission to give an answer after the other elders come out of meditation. He says that he thinks that the elders themselves should be aware of the whole threat of the cult. King Fengzi tells brother Ling Hu that he can help catch that demon cultist and escort him to the head of the sect. Then it will be easier for them to intervene in this matter. Hu Ju thinks that this old man looks stupid on the surface, but in fact he is very cunning. He wants to use it to deal with the killer. Hu Ju thinks about the fact that if he understands martial arts, therefore it is better to avoid such troubles. But if he wants to persuade them to fight the cult, then he cannot refuse their request. Anyway, Hu Ju can now use the Godslayer art and the Diamond art, so why not give it a try? Hu Ju begins to say the words that he has decided, as a man bursts into them, telling the elder that there is urgent news. King Fengzi shouts to him that he is the one again and where his manners are. He asks the guy what's the matter. He replies that the younger brother who was wounded by the cultist has just woken up. When he woke up, he identified the demon. The person from the demon cult is actually Zhang Yunju, the main disciple of their inner sect. He is a ghost who has been hiding in the sect for many years. King Fengzi says that this cannot be. Zhang Yunju is thrown bound on the floor in front of King Fengzi. The man who brought him says that suddenly a traitor appeared in their sect. He shouts to his younger brother to look at his student, who actually turned out to be a traitor. Zhang Yunju shouts to the master to believe him. He didn't kill anyone. King Fengzi says he didn't want to believe it, but the disciple who woke up from the wound had already identified him. The guy replies that he really isn't him. He doesn't even know why he called him. The man shouts in response that it is useless for Zhang Yunju to say something. According to the rules of the Yuden sect, anyone who kills his brother in the sect must be punished. He tells King Fengzi that he should punish his disciple. He takes out his sword, making a heavy sigh. Zhang Yunju looks at the tip of the sword in front of him with tears in his eyes. Then someone shouts, "Stop." This is Cao Chun, who says that there are people in the demon sect who disguise themselves well. That's why it's bad that Zhang Yunju killed someone so easily. King Fengzi tells her no, the probability is very small. Even if it is Shang Yuanlei, who if he is not in front of a person, it will be difficult for him to look like that person. Cao Chun says that maybe it's someone who looks like him. King Fengzi says that if you think about it, Yun Xiao really had a twin brother, but this child should have died long ago. Hu Ju ponders these words. 23 years ago, when the demon sect had not yet appeared at that time, Zhang Yunxiao's father, Zhang Tianya, ran away from his pursuers all the way to Mount Wuding. Next to him was his wife, along with newborn children. Zhang Tianya was not his opponent and died in front of his wife and children. The killer did not want to let the mother and her children go, so he forced her and her children to jump off a cliff. By the time the owners of the mountain arrived, Zhang Mu was already dead. The baby in her arms miraculously survived, and the other disappeared. Zhang Yunxiao grew up on their Mount Wuding, and now he has become one of the outstanding disciples of this generation. If his twin brother is alive, then it is likely that he could have been picked up and raised by an enemy family. Thus, Yun Cao may indeed be innocent, and the murderer is likely to be his younger brother, Zhang Yunyu. But why did he take something against their Mount Yuden? The man shouts that in any case, this child killed several students of Mount Yuden. Such crimes should be severely punished. The disciples gathered at his command. The man orders the students to strengthen their patrols around Mount Yuden from now on in order to catch the killer as soon as possible. He should be punished. The disciples respond by saying that they obey. Wang Qiu says that Zhang Yunzuo unexpectedly settled his grievances, but his long-lost younger brother became a suspect. Twins are made of flesh and blood, they must have feelings. Jiao Chun says that of course, he and his sister are twins, who understand such a relationship best of all. She says that when they were children, they often fought over toys and snacks. When they played bride, they often quarreled over who would be the bride and marry the groom, and could not share the groom's doll. Hu Ju asks about and how they eventually resolved their dispute. They left the groom and got married with their sister. Hu Ju thinks about what an unexpected answer this is. He thought that the girls would compromise and marry the groom together. Wang Qiu asks the master if he has brothers or sisters. They had never heard the master mention them. Hu Ju thinks that he was transported to this world alone, from where he can have relatives. He decides to use his acting skills. Hu Ju says that in fact he has been alone for as long as he can remember. He left his family a long time ago. Thinking about them now, it seems to him like an eternity has passed. Here someone says master. Hu Ju turns his head and sees the pitying looks of Wang Qiu and Cao Chun. They say that the owner must be very lonely. If the master always has something on his mind, then he can always share it with them at any time. Cao Chun wipes away tears, saying that they will take care of the master in the future. Hu Ju says they are exaggerating a bit. Then someone behind their back says that they were chatting and arguing from the very beginning. This is not a place for flirting. They turn around. Hu Ju says that there is a strong smell of blood coming from the speaker. Hu Ju says you. The male twin brother Zhang Yunzu comes out of the shade of the trees and says that although he is not from the Wuding sect, but for some reason he was looking for his little master. The guy tells Hu Ju that he knows him, that he is the same Lin Hu Du Jue. He laughs, saying that Wudenshin really spent a lot of money to get rid of him. Hu Ju asks Zhang Yun that he killed all the disciples on Mount Wuding earlier. He says with a smile that it was him. Zhang Yun asks Hu Ju that he is really a master hired by Wudenshin, how much he was paid for it. Hu Ju replies that it doesn't matter whether he is hired by someone or not. Zhang Yun is killing innocent people. This crime is unforgivable. Regardless of whether he has something to do with the Yuden sect, she won't let him go so easily. Hu Ju tells Zhang Yun that if he surrenders, he will still have a chance to save his life. Zhang Yun says that Hu Ju deserves to be an unsurpassed expert in the world. It seems that with his strength, Hu Ju doesn't take him seriously at all. But if he beats him, then won't he be able to take the title of invincible in the world? Hu Ju wonders if Zhang Yunyu isn't afraid of death. If words fail to intimidate, then it is worth resorting to technology. Hu Ju tells Zhang Yun that since he wants to die, Kai energy comes from Hu Ju. Zhang Yun thinks that the Kai of the out-of-body sword is the same as in the rumors. He is afraid that this time he is finished. Hu Ju notices with a smile that Zhang Yun is starting to shake. He thinks that if he continues to put pressure on him, he will decide to retreat. Wan Qiu asks the host to let her fight him. Wan Qiu rushes into battle, shouting for her enemy to prepare. Zhang Yun thinks about how brazen the girl in front of him is. She attacks him with a sword, telling him to stop talking nonsense. They're going into battle. Wan Qiu thinks that her opponent was stronger than she thought. She attacks him with magic, but he easily evades the attack. Hu Ju watches the battle and thinks that the fencing of late autumn has greatly improved. The strength of both is the same. It seems that he doesn't need to take any action. Zhang Yun shouts at Wan Qiu not to expect mercy from him. She barely escapes the attack, and Jiao Chun shouts to her sister to be careful. Zhang Yun says that he sees what a capable girl she is. Zhang Yun fights Wan Qiu, and she obviously loses. Hu Ju, watching this, thinks that if the fight continues like this, then there will be flaws in her technique. The late autumn technique is not suitable for a long fight. He can't just stand idly by. He can attract Zhang Yun's attention to attack him, and then use the diamond art. Zhang Yun will definitely be scared when he sees that he is invulnerable, so he can activate the Godslayer art to kill him. But what if the diamond art doesn't activate last time he was able to activate it randomly? Hu Ju understands that this is not the time to hesitate. Wan Qiu's life is in danger. Then someone shouts stop. Hu Ju says this voice. Zhang Yun says that he is finally here. He was told that it was his younger brother. Hu Ju, Wan Qiu, Cao Chun, Zhang Yun are approaching Zhang Yunzu. Zhang Yunzu tells Zhang Yun that he has committed a serious crime and now he will make him answer for all the atrocities. He raises his sword in front of him in confirmation of his words. His brother laughs in response, putting his hand to his forehead. Zhang Yun says with a smile that they all knew that he had been waiting for this day for more than 10 years. Everyone freezes after these words and thinks about their meaning. Wan Qiu screams a demon, and that all this time Zhang Yun's target was his brother, and why then did he kill ordinary students? Zhang Yun says that his brother knew about his existence for a long time, but hid and refused to talk to him, so he can only use this method to lure him out. Hu Ju asks him that Zhang Yun and Zion Yunzu are the same brothers, why they want to kill each other. Zhang Yun says that after this killer of their parents took him away and raised him, and his real identity is not he is the deputy head of the Ju Ren Tang demon cult. Yi told Zhang Yun that he was his biological father. Their mother ran away with her lover to the end of the world, and for this he did not kill her and her lover. He taught Zhang Yun everything he had learned in his life. He hoped that in the future he himself would be able to achieve justice. Zhang Yun points his sword at Zion Yunzu and says that now that Zhang Tianya and this woman are dead, he will kill Zion Yunzu. By this act he will glorify the name of his father. Zion Yunzu sternly tells his brother that he has had enough of this lie. Cao Chun asks Zhang Yun about why he believes Nai's words so much. She asks Zhang Yun if he lied to him. She screams that the demon's words cannot be trusted. It is also very likely that not just a stalker who craved his mother and could not get. Zhang Yun opens his eyes in shock after her words. He takes off and rushes at her with a sword, shouting that she should not dare to talk about his father like that. Cao Chun opens his eyes in shock. Wan Qiu shouts at her to dodge. Hu Ju is shocked to talk about how fast, watching Zhang Yun's swift attack. But between Zhang Yun and the girl stands Zion Yunzu, who blocks Zhang Yun's attack with his sword. He tells Zhang Yun that he is so disappointed. He holds his brother's sword, preventing him from touching it. Zhang Yun laughs and says that it seems his brother has never been lazy to practice martial arts. He holds a sword in his hands. Zion Yunzu says that yes, the two of them are the same. Xian Yunzu tells Zhang Yun to be orphans when they were babies. Zhang Yun raised a demon cult, and his sect is Yuden. He continues by telling Zhang Yun that therefore his relatives are not from the demon cult, but his relatives are residents of Mount Wuding. And with his actions, Zhang Yun has hurt his family more than once over the past few days. Xian Yunzu says that is why by killing Zhang Yun, he will avenge his relatives. He points the sword at his brother, gripping it in his hand with determination. Zhang Yun laughs and asks his brother about which residents of Mount Wuding are his relatives. Xian Yunzu asks his brother if they can resolve the misunderstanding. And without waiting for his brother's answer, Xian Yunzu turns to Hu Ju. He tells the hero Ling Hu that a battle between him and Zhang Yun is inevitable. He tells Hu Ju, Wan Qiu, and Cao Chun, who are standing together and looking at him, that this is something he himself has to do, so he asks them not to interfere in his fight. Hu Ju ponders his request. He stands with his eyes closed, and when he opens them, he says that he respects the determination of Xian Yunzu and will not interfere in his fight. To himself, he happily thinks that he can now take no risks. Xian Yunzu says thank you to him with a smile. He thanks Hu Ju for understanding and apologizes for the trouble. Zhang Yun, watching this, clutches his sword and shouts at them to stop pretending. And he's not afraid even if they go together. Xian Yunzu holds up a sword in front of him and shouts to his brother that he will not allow him to hurt his loved ones again. Determination burns in his eyes. Zhang Yun asks Xian Yunzu that this is his last word. He addresses this question to his brother. Xian Yunzu shouts at Zhang Yun that he will kill him. And Xian Yunzu rushes into battle at his brother, drawing his sword. And Zhang Yun, with a weapon in his hands, is preparing to meet the attack directed at him.